Welcome to episode 11 of the Dimensional Cascade podcast. We're coming at you from Shoreline in Washington. With me here in the dungeon, I have
Ricky,
Tom,
and I'm Aiden. And we are focused almost entirely on the second part of the Wood Elf review tonight. I say almost entirely because there's pretty much no news except Games Workshop is going to continue to release 40K for another month, it seems.
Yeah, they got the Space Wolves coming out, and they're going to keep ignoring us for another month.
Care.
I don't care.
Yeah, they have that new table that came out.
Space Wolves, is that the same as Space Marines?
They're Space Marines with wolves.
Yeah.
Anyway, so not a whole lot of news. We are going to do another pit, which we'll get to in just a moment. But all the rest of the episode will be focused on the Wood Elf review. We're going to be covering the rare section, which we didn't do last time. Characters, magic items, and some of the army builds and tactics that we think are useful. And we might even go into some of the questions that we got from listeners after the previous episode.
Yeah, seems like a lot of those tuck in with the things we're going to be talking about anyway. So
Exactly.
Get to them.
Okay, so without further ado, let us go straight to the pit.
The pit.
The pit. The pit. The pit. Okay, so Ricky has taped out a pit that kind of resembles a Blood Bowl table to me. So the
Two end zones.
Yeah, easiest way to think about it. Yeah, because in this week's pit we have Cetra returning after his glorious victory over Durthu. And challenging him this time around, we have Malagor, the Dark Omen. The Beastmen believe that Malagor is the doom of mankind personified. He is the winged fiend that will rise from the benighted forests and challenge the gods of man. He is the devil rendered in woodcut in ancient tomes kept under lock and key, lest the terrible secrets within blast the sanity of any who read them.
There we go.
Yes, Malagor is in fact a billy goat.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Good job. Good.
So, if you haven't checked out the photos on Ricky's Flickr account, he's done a great job of painting up Malagor. You should ask him especially about how he does the bases because, he puts so much work and effort into them.
Pretty advanced. It's advanced techniques.
It's advanced techniques.
Yeah. We'll have to devote a hobby horse section to it sometime.
Sure. Yeah, we can do a whole demonstration.
Step by step.
Yeah.
A walk in the park by Ricky.
Walking in the park. Ricky bending down to pick up a rock.
Okay, so we've had to outline the pit this time because for the first time we have a flyer in the pit. So whereas before everybody was kind of on rails and just moving towards each other, one of the key advantages of flyers is, of course, their maneuverability, and we don't want to take that away from Malagor.
Especially in this matchup that's, well, along with his magic, obviously, it's pretty much all he's got. If he gets into combat with Cetra, we probably know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, especially if
There's going to be a
the charge.
bloody streak left on the ground where Malagor used to be.
For sure.
So,
okay, so I'll just go through Malagor's special rules and his profile and so forth. So, yeah, as Tom alluded to, he's mostly a wizard, not really much of a combat character.
Although compared to wizards from other races, the Beastmen wizards
A
are
little better, yeah. He's weapon skill 5, strength 4, tough 5, 3 wounds, and 2 attacks. So he's not terrible.
Yeah.
He's a level 4 wizard and can choose from the lore of the wild, which is the Beastman's own lore. Death, Shadow, or Beasts, and I'm pretty sure that Tom is going for
Death.
Unsurprisingly.
In a character-on-character matchup, it's pretty much the only choice.
Pretty much. Interestingly, though, Cetra has a bit of a ward against a lot of the death stuff, right? He's got a...
Oh, that's a good question. Actually.
Does he have a ward and magic resistance?
I believe he do.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think he's got a 3-up, but we'll check that
He
one
does
out.
he does have magic resistance, 1 special rule.
And a 4-up ward. Okay, so he's going to be making a lot of saves then.
Yeah. So special rules from Malagor. He's got Primal Fury, which is the Beastman's special rule around getting extra attacks.
Rerolls.
Rerolls, is it? Rerolls, okay. And then he can fly, which we said. He's got a cool pair of wings on the back of him. And then the other two special rules that he has, this one won't really apply. Something wicked this way comes, which means enemy units within 6 inches of him may not use their general's leadership unless he's actually in the unit. An unholy power, which may come into effect here. For every spell that he casts that's not dispelled, he gets a cumulative +1 on subsequent casting attempts. So basically, the more that he casts, the better he gets, and the fewer dice you have to use. That's pretty cool. And he only carries one magic item, so he's got no ward save, it seems.
Nope, no save of any kind.
He's got no save of any kind, okay. So he's got this thing called the Icons of Vilification, which is when a friendly unit within 6 inches is making their Primal Fury test, they become frenzied on any roll of a double, as long as they have passed the test.
So regular Primal Fury, you pass the leadership test to get essentially hatred for that round of combat, rerolls to hit. But if you roll a double 1 on that leadership test, you get frenzy as well. So he just makes it that any double, rather than just the double 1, you're going to get frenzy.
I guess that also applies to him himself.
I'm sure it'll apply to him.
Yep.
I doubt it'll help him very much, but...
Hey, well, 3 attacks is better than 2.
It is.
Okay, so he literally only has a hand weapon other than that, so there's going to be a lot of combat avoidance, I'm guessing.
For sure, yeah. So
Right.
it's going to be a classic question of kind of highly maneuverable Death Wizard take down a combat character just by ducking and weaving and stinging with death magic.
Well, a fairly fast-moving combat character.
Yeah, he is a fast combat character.
All right.
All right, so we have Tom, our resident Beastman player, of course, must be rolling for Malagor.
Malagor.
And Setra, the Imperishable, and we went over his rules last time. He's on a chariot, it's flaming, it's going to hurt if he gets into combat.
Yeah.
He's a level 1 wizard of Nehara.
Yep.
And
I'll go ahead and roll for his spell now.
Yeah.
See what I can do. I don't know this lore at all.
Singular.
Oh, I got a magical vortex.
yeah, do it.
I'm going to go ahead and take a magical vortex. I just love vortexes. I love them on my goblins, so I'm gonna take this one and I'll figure out how to use it later.
Okay.
So after discovering about Cetra's magic resistance, a part of me is wondering if it's best to just take beasts and turn into a melting chimera.
that might be better.
Combat him.
That might be better.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, a 3-up ward against Death Snipes, you could be running around a long time.
Could take a long time, whereas the melting chimera could finish things pretty quickly.
Well, it's up to you. You might not roll it. It's a risk.
What strength and toughness is Cetra? Because 2 of the Death Snipes roll against strength and toughness.
He is strength 6, tough 5. Leadership 10.
Yeah.
He's not going to be hurt by death.
Yeah, you're only leadership 8.
We're going beasts. We're going
Beasts? Yeah. Nice. I like it.
So all that talk about death wizards flying around you is just changed.
I'm going to charge in and be a mountain chimera.
Okay. Well,
Although,
I wish I had a mountain chimera model painted.
War of the Wild, that's true. We can get some.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. No, we can just...
I've got a dragon model. We can use that.
We'll use
Turn into a great fire dragon. That'll be
I can
easy.
grab that brood horror over there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So I'm going to roll on the law of beasts and hope that I roll a 6 or a double, because otherwise I'm boned.
Well, you got an 89% chance, my friend.
I'd like to point out I just rolled a 6.
Well done, sir.
Yeah.
Well done.
There's the
That's a
double.
double.
Yeah.
3 2s and a 1.
All
So
right.
he gets
So-
his spells.
So
Block
we're going
of
to get
Doom.
Transformation of Kadon, Amber Spear, please.
It's hurts.
Savage Beast.
We'll take Savage Beast and Pan's Impenetrable Pelt.
How many can you get? What is 2? 2 is Pans?
2 is Pan's Impenetrable Pelt.
Okay, so you
I actually can't get
can only
all
take
of them.
2 choices then.
Yeah, so I'm going to get Pan's Impenetrable, Amber Spear, Transformation, and Wild Form.
Okay, all right.
Let's do it.
That seems like a reasonable set. Okay, let's roll for
All right.
let's roll for first turn.
Okay, here we go.
Sixes on
all
both
around.
sides.
On 5, yes.
Okay.
Alright.
Alright.
Alright, let's get it going then. So, my first turn movement phase, I'm going to move 2 inches forward,
Yeah, stay out of that charge range.
staying out of charge range.
see.
And I'm gonna roll for my magic phase. Okay. Winds of Magic. I got a 5, so 3 dice for Ricky and
Okay.
5 for me.
Gonna try and channel. I do not.
I'll try and channel 2. I do not. So 5 dice. I'm gonna just go ahead and cast the big casting of the Amber Spear.
Oh boy, here it is.
I don't know if I get it. It's, let's see, that's 4, 7, 13, 14, plus 4 is 18. Goes off on a 15, so I'm good.
Okay, I'm gonna throw all 3 dice at it, see if I can get it.
Nope.
Nope, I don't. I only got a 12.
Okay. So you've been hit by a strength 10 bolt.
Ouch.
Let's
Ouch.
try and
Ouch.
wound
Ouch.
you.
Now, does this randomize between...
I rolled a 1.
How does it work first? We got it. Does it...
It would actually randomize. It would randomize.
Okay, so that
But
hits the
either-
chariot.
That hits the chariot.
Okay, so it's the
Okay.
chariot.
Take the 1 as the hitting
I'll
the
take
chariot.
the 1 as the randomizer. Hits the chariot.
Wounds the
Wounds
chariot.
the chariot,
Wounds the chariot,
and
for
does
sure.
D6.
Oh,
You would
boy.
take your ward save first.
Does the chariot have the ward save? The chariot of the gods has an armor save of 4 up, but...
The ward save is just Cetra.
It's the brooch that's the ward
Yep,
save?
okay. And the chariot of the gods has a 4
Okay,
ward.
so
So
you
yes,
take
it
your
does.
4 up.
So he gets
Does
the
it have a
4 up.
4 board? Does it also have the magic
Magic
dice?
resistance.
Yeah, must do.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
you're
a 3 up.
3 up ward. Okay, here we go.
Nailed it.
All right.
You nailed it on 6.
6.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that would have...
That could have been, that could have been nasty.
That's my first turn over. We're 20 inches apart.
2022.
22?
22 inches apart.
Let's see, what's my move?
Played it
8,
safe.
so you can't
I
charge
can't
him.
make it in, huh? And you're gonna
Now,
fly
what kind of fool
behind
would
me.
get within that charge range?
I think you want to kind of come over and get in a corner a little
I
bit.
think I'm
yeah.
going to. I'm gonna probably move forward. Use one of my free pivots like that. Then I'll use a free pivot like this, and I'm gonna try and.
That seems good, because you don't want him to be able to fly over, which is 20 inches.
Yeah.
He can't do that right now,
Yeah,
so
you
that's
can't
good.
get past me now. You can't
What's-
get him in a blind side there.
Yeah.
So
And,
I think we're good.
and remember, no moving backwards.
No movement.
No.
You can move
You can move
backwards.
backwards.
Yeah.
What's the closest distance there? Because it's probably some other part of the model. It's not the... Because Cetra's at an angle right now, so it's probably...
Yeah, I think.
Right, but I'm not measuring a charge range. I'm measuring to try and
well, that's
get
all I
into
cared
this
about.
little corner here to see if I can
yeah,
weasel
I'm just gonna keep
my
pivoting.
way out of being charged here. There's a lot of measuring and cut. Yeah, all right, you place your guy wherever you want him, and then we're going into
Pull
my
back a
movement
little.
phase.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna go to here.
There you go. That
There.
seems good.
That's good. All right.
All right.
And now I'm going to take a quick picture of this so people can see what I did.
That's a
Okay,
good
yeah,
idea.
Ricky's getting up in the corner to try and not leave me any little blind spots to jump into with my fly move.
Okay.
And now you're about
Now let's do some magic.
20 inches away, so so you're still going to have a tough time charging.
All right. I have a vortex. All right. I got 8 power dice. Tom gets 4. I'm going to try and channel. I do not. So I'm going to throw 6 dice at my big fat vortex.
Tom, do you channel?
Um,
Tom drops his dice.
I do channel.
Oh, you get 5 dice.
I'm going to go for the small casting. It's only a 15 up. Well, I'm going to... So what I'm going to do, it can only go...
So it remains in play?
It is.
Ah.
Oh.
So what I can do with this is I'm going to try and use it to block one of my... one of the parts of the board that I don't want Tom to get into.
That's a good idea.
So I'm going to go
What does
for
this vortex do? Is it like a characteristic test of some description?
any model under or passed over by the template suffers a single strength for a hit.
Okay.
It's not really going to do a whole lot. But, you can't move into the vortexes, so that's going to stop you from moving into that area. Alright, so it looks like I got a 12, 16... Or 19. I got a 19.
I got an 18 too.
Okay, never
Unlucky,
mind.
my
Okay.
friend.
All right, so it's your turn. What are you gonna do, Mister?
Okay, what kind of distance have we got here?
This is horrible.
It's a 21 inch. So
I've got a 10 plus
You're
Swift
still not-
Stride. I'm within range, but probably not.
I don't think you want to charge.
I
You do
do
want
if
to charge?
I can turn directly into a mountain chimera.
Oh, that's ballsy. Do it.
No, I'm not.
Better than getting charged.
Well,
But I mean, well, if Ricky parked somewhere where I was within a reasonable charge range, then I would definitely charge him. Just putting it out there. So,
Never trust a beast man.
yeah.
as it is, I'll just move
trust
1/2 of 1 inch forward.
Oh, you pansy.
What?
Pansy.
I moved forward, alright, that's offensive. I'm on the offensive right now.
Yes, your move was offensive.
Yeah, that was
Oh, we got 11 on his magic dice.
Yeah, so I got 6.
Oh, God.
I'm going to try and channel, because I actually could throw 7 to dispel if I get it. Nope, I do not.
I'm going to try and channel. I did get it. Okay, so 11 dice. What do we want to do, my pretties? First of all, we will do 5 dice at the big amber spear. That's 13, 16, 17, 21.
So it goes off. And your other spells are transformations.
Transformation,
Wild form and pelt.
wild form, and pelt. Wild form and pelt don't really do anything when I'm not in combat.
I'm gonna have to. Well, this is one thing that can really kill me.
I think.
really just kill
I
you.
think. Well, okay, go for it. You're in charge.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep from getting.
I mean, even if I
smacked.
turn into a mountain chimera, he gets to dispel it in his magic.
So,
So remains in play.
alright. So we got you got how much there?
21.
Jeez, I'm not sure I stopped it. Oh, I didn't. I only got a 20.
That's sorry. That's unfortunate.
I keep being a
let's
level 1. All right. Yep. Randomize who we hit. Oh, you hit
It's the
Cetra.
big boy. Does it
Oh,
wound?
boy.
Does wound.
Ooh,
3
boy.
aboard.
Okay, 3 up board. Yeah. Oh, I
nailed
saved
it.
Okay.
Alright.
Alright.
And then with my last 6 dice, I'm going to turn into
My last
a
6?
mountain chimera.
Alright, what does that
Okay.
need? A 24?
It needs a 20.
20?
So, good odds. Especially when I
Oh.
irresistible it. Alright, so I'm now...
And then you got Amber Spear off, so you were +1 to cast that turn too. Remember, that's a
right.
special
Yeah.
rule.
Right.
But not that it matters. What
Not that
there's
it matters. Alright,
Okay.
so now you're a
A
chimera.
mountain chimera.
And let's see what happens
let's
to you.
see what happens to me. On the miscast table,
Dimensional
I get
Cascade for the win?
Dimensional Cascade.
No.
Okay, well, I'm going to lose some wizard levels.
Oh, wow.
That's power drain. My wizard level is reduced by D3
So you
by
get
3.
Three.
So I'm a level 1, and
And you
I've
lose that
lost.
spell,
I've
so-
lost transformation.
Which
Yeah.
Now
means
I'm
it
just-
goes away, right?
No.
No.
Remains in play? Yeah, I think so.
If you've lost the spell, it's automatically just.
I'm not sure about that. Let's say that it doesn't, because that'll be more fun.
All right.
Yeah, I like it that way. Okay, and now I'll just randomize between my other 3. So the first other one I lose will be the third of the 3 I have left,
Which is Spear.
which is Amber Spear, and then
Pelt.
the Pelt. So I just have Wild Form left, but I'm a Mountain Chimera.
Well, there you go.
Do I do anything else with this one? Lose some dice? Or, I just can't attempt any more casting this phase.
Okay, and now you're a level 1 wizard.
I'm level 1 wizard, but I'm a Mountain Chimera, so suck it.
All right.
All right, now, is this a plausible charge? Am I in range if I roll double
Just
sixes?
about.
Double 6s.
Yeah, double six
Yeah,
charge.
you need double 6s.
Where is that going to put me?
Well, he can't fly anymore, so just kind
Mountain
of
Chimera
move.
can
They
fly.
have fly. Yeah.
Chimera can fly?
Yeah.
Oh, of course they can. What am I thinking of? They can't. The
Hydra.
I know I won't get. Well, screw it. I'm taking the chance. I want double 6s. Come on.
All right, he's going to charge.
Charge! No.
I was
So I go
wishing
forward
that you
5
would.
inches.
Stumble forward 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Now I need you to just get a really small magic phase and not dispel.
All right,
What's
magic
the
phase.
low casting cost on
15.
transformation? Oh, 15.
No.
5
Five.
dice.
It's gonna be enough.
Well, maybe.
Damn it, Ricky.
Yeah, my vortex
Wouldn't you
isn't
rather-
even worth it.
Yeah, I would just throw the vortex. I mean, wouldn't it be more fun to fight mountain chimeras than fight a little crappy wizard?
No.
It actually would.
Throw the vortex.
If I throw the vortex, you can't move through it, so you wouldn't be able to charge me.
I can move through it. I just have to take the hit.
I don't think you're
not allowed to move through vortexes.
vortexes. You're not allowed to willingly move into them.
Really?
Well, where have we got the little rulebook?
Well,
I'll
he's
look
holding,
it up.
he's holding the rule book.
I'm holding the rule book. I'll look that up while you decide whether you want to do the sensible thing
I'm gonna do
or the
both.
very silly thing.
I'm going to roll 3 dice
Oh.
to cast the vortex, the small
Oh
one on
my
a 15.
God.
It's not very sensible. Nope, I don't get it. Okay, 2 dice. I'm looking for double 6s to stop the Mountain Chimera. Can't say I didn't try. I don't get it all.
Sweet.
All right.
Mountain Chimera time.
Charge.
I'm charging. What distance am I looking at right now?
13, 14, maybe? 15.
15 for the win. Alright. So
you just need to roll a 5. Nice. I think you're going to get it.
Oh, just about. Roll a 6.
Really? Okay.
Alright, so the Mountain Chimera is in combat.
That's fine. I don't need my impact hits to win this.
Yeah. What's the initiative of a Mountain
It's
Chimera?
initiative 5, so Cetra will get to go first.
Think so?
5?
I don't think Cetra's not initiative 5.
He's initiative 3.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh,
He's undead. They all
yeah, in
have
my mind
terrible
he's like a
initiative.
vampire, kinda,
Yeah.
so no.
He's
Not
a
like
mummy.
vampire. Okay, so let's see how many attacks
3d6?
the Mountain Chimera... it'll be 4d6.
4d6.
Actually, plus 1 for Frenzy.
What?
Oh, God, that's 12,
How did...
15, 16, that's 17
17.
Oh, I didn't realize the Mountain Chimera was so awesome.
I had no idea what you were doing with that vortex. It's just gonna
I thought it
wreck
was
you.
like I was like, oh,
I thought it was
yeah.
like a Hydra.
Yeah, I thought it was like the normal chimeras that fly over and
No,
just go boo. And...
Random attacks 4d6.
There you go.
Can I even have more than 10 attacks?
You can
If
with
it's
random, yeah.
It can be. Alright.
This is ridiculous.
No.
Should have stopped.
Tom, the
Should've
power
stopped
player.
it. Should have stopped it.
I'm going to do 9 and then the other 8 for 17 total.
Go for it.
Okay, weapon skill? Weapon skill?
My weapon skill is 7. So
Oh, me
suck
too.
it. What? You're 7 too?
Yeah. Oh, I only
That's
got
only
3
3
hits
hits.
out of the first bat.
Alright.
Don't you get a reroll those?
No, he's not.
No.
Not gonna be. Alright, so only
And then,
6.
you know what?
What?
There's this whole thing about...
Oh, you're Primal Fury.
Yeah, your Primal Fury... When you turn into the Mountain Chimera,
still got
you
Primal
lose any
Fury.
weapons, but you keep any special rules.
Yep, you still got
I
it.
just won't take it this turn because I forgot about it and I've already rolled all the dice.
Okay.
So I got 6 hits total
Yep,
out of all the dice. Okay, toughness.
that's 7 dice.
Tough 5.
And strength 7, I'm afraid
Wow,
to
I'm an
say.
idiot.
Yeah.
See, this is why I always end up bouncing around at the bottom
Paul?
tables. Is stuff like this.
That's 5.
Oh yeah,
2.
5 wounds.
5 wounds.
They're all directed on Cetra.
4 upward.
4 up. 5 wounds, you said?
Yeah.
5.
Ooh, 4 up. 4 up 4. Here we go. I'm gonna get all of these.
I would have thought.
And then I'm gonna
One
punch
for you.
Okay, well, I
What?
take 2 wounds.
Okay.
3 of them, nice.
So I'm down to 2.
Punch him in the face.
Now I'm gonna punch you in the face.
All 3 faces?
Yeah.
Pretty scared. Pretty scared. I'm only toughness
I have
1,000,000.
8?
I have 5
7?
attacks.
Yeah.
God, this guy's a beast. And your weapon skill 7 as well, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Alright, so I hit you 4 times.
Yeah.
I am strength 6. What's your tough?
7, that would be. 7, yeah.
5s.
Why the hell did
Wait, he doesn't
I...
have
Did you not know?
I did not know the Mountain Chimera.
Oh my god.
I don't think I've
No
ever had
worries.
somebody use this on me. I got 2 1s and 2 4s, no 5s, so I do not hurt you.
Mm.
Horses for the win. Do it.
I have 4 horses.
Of the apocalypse.
I only hit with 1. Oh, well, actually, I would have hit with 2 because
Yeah?
they use the weapon skill, etc., right?
Yep.
And then I still don't wound. Okay.
Mm. It's unfortunate.
Alright,
Alright,
so...
over to my turn.
Hang on, you did... that was your turn?
Your turn.
You did
Oh, that was my
2
turn,
wounds,
yeah.
but you're unbreakable and unstable.
Unstable. No,
So you
I
lose...
think I am unstable.
Yeah, I think so.
Flammable, my will be done. Yeah, all
You're
the
now
undead.
kind of
Yeah.
dead, yeah.
So,
So do you lose another 2 wounds?
if so, I'm dead.
Do they randomize, or is it...
I think I just died.
Because unstable, you kill the whole unit first before moving on to the chariot, before starting to lose
So would
wounds
it be
from the
2 on the
characters.
chariot?
I would guess 2 on the chariot.
That makes more sense. And it keeps the fight going. More
Okay.
Keeps the fight going. We'll
All right,
just say
so
it's
we'll
right.
put 2 on the chariot then.
Yeah.
If we're wrong, people can bash us online.
Sure. Alright, Cetra, do you think maybe this round you might want to dispel
Yeah, I think I was a fool.
Listen to Tom.
Before we dispel the Mountain Chimera, I just want to point out that even if you had done a couple wounds on me then, it would have just been a couple out of my 10 wounds that I have.
What? Why?
But when
Why
you
is
dispel it, all the wounds stay on.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. I don't have any wounds on me right now.
Yeah, but tough 7 flyer.
It's ridiculous.
Actually, I have poison attacks as well,
Why
which
do
I
people
didn't take
even?
into account.
Why do people
but
even
it's
try
all
and
good.
take the? Does it have a breath weapon?
Yeah,
It does, but the
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do my breath weapon.
no, you're not. Too late. You have to wait till next round. The
Not
greater
gonna do it next round.
fire dragon has a strength 5 breath weapon,
Yeah,
but that's the only advantage.
yeah. I mean,
It's tougher as well. It's
it
tough
is
8.
tough. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's why people take the dragon.
Sometimes
Yeah.
most people take the chimera.
This just blends through infantry
Yeah.
and anything.
Pretty much
It's
anything.
kind of
Because it has
breath
Thunderstomp as
weapon
well,
and
too, right?
Thunderstorm.
Yeah, go.
Okay.
All right.
Magic
So
face.
magic. What do we get? We
5
have
dice.
5. You have 4.
Do you want to try that vortex
I'm gonna
first?
try and you can just shut up. I do not channel.
I
I'm
do
gonna take
channel.
all 5 dice. I'm probably not gonna get this. I
Do
need a
it. You
15.
need a 15.
15.
It's
You got
gone.
got
It's
it.
gone. Thank
Oh,
God.
Okay, the
God.
mountain chimera is gone.
And it's replaced with the mountain
by
goat.
Crappy little.
Yeah, put them in.
Here's the blah,
Man.
blah. All right.
What just happened? I forgot.
I felt so awesome. Now I feel
Yeah, if you hadn't
terrible.
miscast, you probably would have had this one. But
Yeah.
I don't
Alright.
feel so bad now.
All right.
Alright.
Smack him in the face.
Alright, I'm gonna smack you. No, he's got higher initiative, right?
Probably.
He's
It's
initiative
only
4.
3. Yeah, initiative 4. I'm going to take my Primal Fury test,
Okay.
which I pass on an 8. So, 2 attacks. 2, down from 17 to 2. This does not feel good.
It is.
1 hit
That's great
and
to
a
me.
reroll for just 1 hit total. Strength 4 now. Down
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
it doesn't
yeah. How's that
win.
feel,
Doesn't win.
mister?
Feels bad, alright?
Alright.
I was going to remind you to take your fear test just then, but you didn't hit him anyway, so it doesn't matter.
matter.
All right, you're hitting on 3s.
I'll go ahead and take those
that's
3 hits.
3 hits from Cetra.
Oh, I'll
That's
take
going to
those
be
3
3 wounds.
That'll do it.
Goodbye.
It was beautiful while it lasted.
It was. That was pretty
Can't believe
scary.
I fell for the whole. Oh no, Mount Chimera's not that big.
I love it. I would go for that strength 4 vortex
Yeah,
instead.
try the
That sounds
vortex.
pretty scary.
The lesson here, folks, is never trust an Englishman.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, well, so there you have it.
And always go for Mountain Chimera.
Cetra actually won. I'm
Yeah,
surprised.
Cetra got it.
Well, so here's the thing. He won if we played the rules right for unstable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he lost. So it's interesting. We'll need to figure that one
Maybe
out.
I know
Let
for
me look
vampires, taking the you always take the wounds off the unit first before any go on to the vampire himself.
I'll look up the special rules for
All right.
Jim Keen's right now and see how that works.
Anyway, it was a lot more fun than just flying around for 6
Yes.
full turns of zapping with death magic.
Yes, that
I
would have
got
been
to be a
pretty
Mountain
dull.
Chimera
Yeah.
and unleash
You hardly
17
ever get to
attacks.
do that in a
I know.
battle. It's so much fun. All right, cool. So while Ricky's looking up the rules, we'll wrap up this segment and we will get ready to rumble with our Wood Elf review.
Cetra Supreme. His will be done.
The Art of War.
All right, Wood Elf review part 2. We're kicking off with a discussion of the rare units. All right, there's a lot of good stuff in rare. Actually, it's all good, but there's not a lot of it, I guess is probably a more accurate.
Right. It's a pretty
Yeah.
concise section of the book.
And so what you'll probably find as you build out your army is that you're going to run out of rare points pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would imagine most lists will just max that out for various reasons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Okay.
kind of a shame in a way that they're not a little bit. Some of these are not spread out into special too, because then you could make some nicer combinations. I think
I think, well, there's a lot in special.
it's true.
You know,
Okay.
there's a lot of good stuff in
All right, there's a
special.
lot of good stuff in
And
this
there's-
book.
It's a good book.
The
you know.
3 things that are in rare are really powerful for what they do.
Sure.
So I feel like having them slightly limited is probably a good thing.
It's true.
Yeah. Just play 3,000 points, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Like my army of just Way Watchers and Tree Men.
Okay.
Alright, so let's get into them.
Yeah, so the 3 entries are Way Watchers, Great Eagles, and Tree Men. We'll start with in the book order. So Way Watchers are coming up first here. Always love the Way Watchers. The fluff behind them is that they are, kind of the advanced scouts, the guys who go out for, ages at a time and are kind of not really very sociable and spend all of their time, guarding the ways, obviously.
Shooting beastmen in the face.
Yeah, well, pretty much. And so, like, these guys first appeared actually back when they first started doing individual army books as opposed to doing like Warhammer armies and so forth. They appeared in that edition of the book. And that was their first appearance, like mid-90s or something around there. And I thought these guys are so cool. That's what got me into Wood Elves, was the kind of the idea behind them. So
I mean, they take like what you think of as a wood elf, kind of just solitary, prowling the woods kind of thing, and just like
take it to the nth degree.
They just do it even more than the regular wood elf. They're super sneaky, super good at hiding.
Yeah, exactly. So, profile on these guys, it's a standard elf profile, except they've got ballistic skill 5. And they come with 2 hand weapons, which means they're no slouch in combat. But, of course, they've got no armor. So if they don't kill what they're fighting against, the chances are they're going to be killed. And they come with the Azrai longbow, which we covered in the last episode. Special rules on them. They've got ASF like all the other elves and Forest Stalker. They have scouts and skirmishers special rules. So you can deploy them after all the regular deployment and pretty much in close range of anything you want to shoot at if you're feeling daring. But the real absolute golden special rule that they have is this hawk-eyed archer rule. So what does it do? It basically means you take 2 different types of shots instead of making a normal shot. In fact, you're not able to make a normal shot. You have only 2 options. One is you take a multi-shot 2, which is the fast shot. And I'm always reminded of, and I don't know if either of you guys would have seen it, Tom, because you're probably too young, and Ricky, because you were raised in America. But there was this great British movie made in the early 80s called Hawk the Slayer. You ever see it?
Nope.
I had never seen it.
I didn't think so. So Hawk the Slayer.
I feel a movie night coming up.
It's cheesy.
Sounds like
It's cheesy as anything. It's basically like D&D the movie, where you got this guy called Hawk the Slayer, and he's the obvious fighter, and then but one of the guys that he recruits is the elf, and he has this his special ability is he just keeps pulling arrows out of his quiver and shooting them so super fast, and I'm just every time I see the fast shot, I'm like, it's Hawk the Slayer.
I always envisioned them as Legolas, where he puts two arrows
on the
bowstring at once and
then
shoots
just have them shoot off at like slightly different angles.
Yeah, just kills 2 things at once. That's what I feel like when he does when they do
Robin Hood Men in Tights, where he has like 6 on the button.
Actually, and this is a complete tangent, my favorite bow shooting scene ever is from Hot Shots Part 2, where he picks up the chicken.
On the bow.
I almost wet myself laughing.
Okay, that'll be my mental image of Way Watchers.
From now on.
Rubber chicken.
There you go. There's a conversion opportunity for somebody. And then what really puts the fear into people, I think, is the other option, which is the aimed shot. And aimed shots, quite simply, they just ignore armor saves. So right away, you can deal with one of the biggest problems that Wood Elves have always struggled with, which is 1-up armor saves, 2-up armor saves, just by taking Way Watchers. So thoughts on these guys?
I mean, no armor saves is obviously awesome, but when you think about the shot and the type of thing you're going to be shooting out, it gets even more awesome because, it's still only strength 3 shooting, but like you said, the thing you have a trouble with is the 1-up armor saves, and they're often on, knights who like elf knights elves have a 2-up, but empire knights Bretonians are 2-up as well.
Other characters.
But those knights are often toughness 3.
Yeah,
so
a lot of T3.
their only line of defense against ballistic skill shooting is normally their armor, and now you've just gotten rid of that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's really nice.
Yeah, and even in the other thing that I think they're really good at is shooting chariots. Chariots usually got like a 3-up or 4-up armor save on the lighter ones, but they've got a reason. Like their toughness is usually it's anywhere between 4 and 6 depending on the chariot.
And for those tougher ones, the 5 or 6, I think you end up being better off with the
multi-shot.
Poisoned,
the
poison arrows,
stuff.
some regular blade guard.
High tough is obviously absolutely the poison, but then you have the ultimate anti-combo, which is the high tough and 1-up armor save, right?
Sure.
Like you get on the Demon Prince or some character models,
right?
And
that becomes, I guess we'll talk a bit about playing against Wood Elves later, but that becomes something that becomes a really attractive choice against Wood Elves, the things that have that combination of toughness and armor.
Yeah.
That's good against any army.
Sure. That's true.
But it becomes one of the only things that's good against the Wood Elves.
Yeah. And I think, even then, your Way Watchers... The problem is that you don't have the saturation with them that you do with, your core models.
Right, for sure.
But you still can, like if it's, for example, like a Saurus Cowboy or a Demon Prince or something like that, where you can get a couple of turns of shooting at it with enough Way Watchers. The no armor saves is a pretty big deal.
For sure.
I think it's actually probably better than the poison in that case. Because even though the poisons are wounding automatically, you're only going to get
against a 1-up.
Against a 1-up, you're still struggling. Yeah. So these guys are great. I've used them. Where I find them very effective is in making that switch from you first take out the high armor target that you are worried about getting into your infantry or getting into your weaker elves. And then you can focus on like the big horde or whatever else. Like I've decimated big units of skeletons and so forth with just tons of multi-shot going in there.
So I think even if you are shooting at something toughness 5, and assume you move and not long range, so you're hitting on 3s, then you're still going to wound with 1 out of every 9 shots you make. At that thing.
Yeah,
so
that's not bad.
If you've got a couple of units of Way Watchers on the table, you can reliably put a couple wounds on a Demon Prince every turn.
And if you've also got that poison,
sure.
then the Chaos player then has to at least not be so dumb as to leave your Demon Prince right in the crossfire.
Right.
So Way Watchers very solid choice.
And I mean, you really take them for that armor ability. But even when you come up against a horde army, you have the multi-shot to fall back on, so there's no bad matchup for them really in terms of opponents.
They are 20 points each, but I think you get what you pay for sure.
Yeah. And, obviously they've got ASF, so that makes them a great target for, if you've got 9 of them, out on a flank somewhere and you need to take out a monster or something along those lines, you've got a good target for a Mind Razor. Right? They've got 2 attacks each because of the extra hand weapons. It's ASF. That's going to wreck something. Okay, moving on. I mean,
no downsides really.
There's no downsides. Well, I mean, they've got no armor. They're still toughness 3 with no armor.
Sure.
They die in droves to Fireball and whatever else.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the whole army all over.
Right.
So
I think you're probably going to see in almost every list at least one small unit of them. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, Great Eagles next, and these guys have not really changed from the previous book. I don't see any stat change. The only difference is now you can take them in a unit of 1+, and where it used to be you could only take 1. So if you really wanted to...
Do you think we're going to see the Eagle Horde hitting the top?
That would be so awesome.
18 Eagles in Horde formation.
Yeah, even if you took 4 for 200 points, you'd still get all of your attacks. But the problem is they only have 2 supporting attacks, not 3. They were 3 attacks, maybe. No, so let's be serious for a moment. Great Eagles at 50 points, still one of the best,
The classic elf redirector.
Redirector, Chaff Hunter, War Machine Hunter.
Maintains its role from the previous book, pretty much.
Yeah, very well. And still, of course, available as a mount on characters, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And it's not... So in the High Elf book, that eagle that always used to be their prime redirector was kind of displaced by the Reavers, the fast cav moving to core.
Yeah.
So you also got the Glade Riders moving to core, but because they have the whole ambush deal going on, they don't really just switch out directly with the Eagles the way that Reavers
they were core
do.
before, but yeah.
The Glade Riders were, okay.
Being forced into the ambusher role is what keeps them from doing that.
Yeah,
So you're going to probably have to use Eagles to have that utility.
They were core before, but they were 26
They were not really
long.
viable before,
Yeah. And when we get to it, I think, there's a possibility of, a hero on a steed as a redirector in that kind of role. And we'll talk about that when we get there. Okay, and then the last entry in the rare section is the Treeman.
Woohoo.
So, I obviously love the Treeman from the previous book, and in this edition, they've their stat line is significantly different.
They've undergone the same kind of changes that the other tree spirits have, right?
It's pretty radical, actually. Everything has changed. So they're now a point higher in weapon skill at weapon skill 6. They've gone from having BS 0 to having BS 6. And that's because their Strangle Root attack, which used to be a special shooting attack, is now just a regular ballistic
skill. It used to just be some auto hits.
It was an artillery dice of auto hits, strength 4 or strength 5 in a forest. And now it's different. We'll get into it in just a sec. The big nerf is, of course, from strength 6 down to strength 5, like all of the other forest spirits. However, it's still strength 5, which is
really good.
Not to be sniffed at. There is a big difference between 5 and 6 in terms of ability to be a can opener and actually get into armor. But against, light to medium armored infantry, they are still wrecking face with strength 5. They're still tough 6. They've lost a wound. They've gone down from 6 to 5. Initiative is still the same. Attack's still the same at 5. And leadership is gone up a point to 9, which is a pretty important difference.
Really good difference, actually.
Yeah, so their special rules have changed a little bit. They're still flammable. They're still a forest spirit, but now, of course, that only means they've got a 6-up ward, whereas they used to have the 5-up against non-magic. They're still a large target. Scaly skin 3+. Stubborn, so that with a leadership 9 means you don't need to be in your general's bubble quite so much. You still want to be in your BSB bubble. Most of the time.
If you can.
Yeah.
If you can.
They still cause terror.
Believe in that kind of thing.
Yeah. They still cause terror. And now they've brought back the tree whack special rule, which is from the old edition.
So awesome.
Durthu used to have this in the original book. I don't know if the Tree Man did. But so the tree whack, if you listened in the last episode, I used the tree whack with Durthu against Cetra. Which was probably a bad idea.
To great effect.
Shut up.
Poor Durthu.
So you basically nominate an enemy model in base contact instead of rolling to hit, and that model has to pass an initiative test or take D6 wounds with no armor saves. And you can even use it in a challenge. What this is awesome against? Steam tanks. It is just fantastic against steam tanks. I don't know if there's anything else that it's quite so good against.
Most big dumb monsters are kind of initiative 2.
They're low initiative.
There's a lot of initiative 2 monsters.
Yeah, the tricky part is, initiative 2 monsters are likely going to also hit the tree man. Whereas, the steam tank hits the tree man, when it's in close combat, it does the grind. And it doesn't do a whole bunch of damage, whereas, another monster may well kill it. It depends on the monster, so it's also good against Stegodons, I guess, because I think they're initiative 2. Oh, no, that's no good because Stegodon has skinks on the back, who are initiative 4.
And you use the highest
use the highest, so they're only going to fail on a 5 or a 6. So, so you're going to have to take a hit is basically what it boils down to. You're going to have to take the hit and then whack them. Or beach slap them, as we prefer.
Yeah. So yeah, like the steam tank is the ultimate target for this.
Yeah, I think so. And I've taken out 2 steam tanks with 2 tree men. It's pretty fun.
Right. But also in, there's certain situations and challenges where even if something has slightly higher initiative, this might be your best option anyway. Like, I think in one of our first games, we ended up with a tree man in combat with my bull centaur hero,
That's
who
right.
has kind of a 1-up rerollable armor, high toughness. So with your tough 5 attacks, you weren't really going to do much damage to him. So that challenge lasted a few rounds, and eventually you got a tree whack off on him and did a whole bunch of wounds.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things. It's a 1 in 6 chance. You'll do D6 wounds. It's sometimes worth taking that chance, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we said that the strangle roots had changed a bit. Let's go into that now. So first off, the big difference is, of course, the points drop. So they used to be 285, and they've dropped 60 down to 225.
So good.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
And you actually now really need those points in Rare so that you can take Way Watchers and other things. So the Strangle Roots...
20-point upgrade.
It's a 20-point upgrade. It's range 12 inches, multiple shots D6 plus 1, and just straight out strength 5.
So good. The one game I did play with my elves, I used Strangle Roots, and I actually didn't use my treeman in combat at all. I danced around the whole game just shooting this, because I couldn't quite get an optimal charge, and so I just kept dancing him around and shooting, and this thing with these just taking off models left and right with the Strangle Root.
Okay, so I put it to you that you may have played the rules wrong. Did you march your tree man and fire?
No.
You never did?
No.
Because you used to be able to do that with the Strangle Root, right? You can march and fire.
It's not quick to fire.
It's not quick to fire, and it's ballistic skill shooting. So if you move and you're at long range, you're only hitting on 4s because it's a multi-shot. So you have to be within 6 inches.
I just kept dancing around out of charge arcs and shooting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it worked.
I'm glad it worked.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's the greatest choice. I've taken it and I've not taken it, and I find that it all depends on what role your tree man is going to be playing for you. I think the tree man. This was my biggest disappointment in the whole book, and I have to say it was a pretty huge one because. For me, the Tree Man was one of the things that I loved the most about the previous book, because the Tree Man worked in every phase. They could march, and then they could shoot,
tree sing,
and then they could tree sing in the magic phase. They've lost that, and then in combat. Sure, there were plenty of times when they fluffed, but they were strength 6.
Yeah.
And you couldn't mess with that.
Yeah, and 6 wounds.
So
they were both a hammer and an anvil.
Exactly.
Rolled into one. Yeah. Yeah, I think this would be one of the things that you would maybe rather just pay a few more points and keep the kind of souped up version that you used to have.
Yeah, I would have gladly have kept it.
And maybe just take one, because now, like, the nice thing about the points drop is you can take 2 and probably still have a few points for a couple of eagles or some way watchers. Whereas maybe, you'd be happy just taking 1 of the old version.
Yeah.
And then keeping some points for the other stuff.
And so the interesting thing is, though, what is their role now in the army? I mean, they're definitely not the hammer that they were.
Right. Support now.
They're more, they're support, they're an anvil.
Kind of an anvil, I would think of them as.
With being stubborn and 5 wounds, I mean, if you're Lore of Life or High Magic, you're going to be able to heal them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, now your main combat unit is going to be the Wild Riders in most lists, so maybe the Tree Man, you just get him stuck into things you don't want to deal with the Wild Riders, massive tar pits, stuff like that. Just keep them there, anchoring those units until you can get multi-charges off towards the end of the game. Yep,
yeah. So, I mean, on the plus side, like compared to, if you look at what the other possible anvils are, maybe we'll get more into this as we get into the discussion about lists. He does have a very small frontage.
Mm-hmm.
Even the new Tree Man kit, you can choose to have him be 75 wide
50 wide,
or
yeah.
50 wide. You can choose to have him deep if you want. There's multiple poses that allow you to do either. You built him as Durthu, which puts him wide. But if you look in the little, but we had all this discussion on the Wood Elf
The
forum.
regular tree man is kind of facing forward towards the 50 mil.
He
side
faces
of the
forward.
base. He's like shooting somebody with the strangle root.
His right in White Dwarf has got 50 mil facing forward and into stuff. So everybody has accepted that you can just face it either way.
Yeah, I would assume you can.
Yeah. But even still, 75 mil wide is not a very wide frontage.
Right. And at 50 wide, you're talking about just 4 models getting to hit him. So.
Yeah, for sure. And against, even against some of the nastier infantry, you don't want to put him in against White Lions, obviously.
No.
But
the White Lions are prime targets for hitting with Wild Riders.
Yeah.
The White Lions are normally coming in medium-sized units, 20-ish, who you can pretty much just wipe out with a Wild Rider charge.
You can, because they're only tough 3, and they don't get any armor saves and all that shenanigans. I think Tree Man is a reasonable choice. I think you gotta know what you're going to do with him, and I think against certain armies he's going to be incredibly effective. Against others, he's probably going to be a liability because of the flammable, because he's a monster, right? He has all that same problems that you have with a monster, and it's not going to be. I don't think you're going to see like before where you had, like 2 or 3 Tree Man lists quite so commonly.
Oh, really?
Quite so commonly, just because you've built one, because they don't have that same hitting power, right? And you're sacrificing the points that you need to build. Okay, anything else you want to say on Tree Man?
Not really. I mean, it's all kind of tied into the internal balance problems in this book between elves and tree spirits, which that has gone really far towards the elves in this book.
Yeah, I think so.
And the tree men end up, in every section of the book, end up looking like the slightly crappier option.
Yep. Okay, so let's wrap up Rare and go into Lord choices. Okay. Lords.
Lordy.
Oh, lordy. Glade Lord. Okay, the Glade Lord used to be known as the... Oh, no, can't remember now.
Not Highborn.
Highborn, you're right.
Was it Highborn?
Yeah, Highborn. I got stuck on Prince. I'm like, no, that's the High Elves. Highborn. Oh, the shame if we're forgetting already. So the Glade Lord has a standard... Elf Lord profile, and comes now by default with light armor, which is good. I think you used to have to buy it. Hand weapon and Azrai longbow, and of course has always strikes first special rule, and Forest Stalker, and the Arrow of Kurnos. Special rule, which I really liked. We talked about this before, didn't we?
We have not talked about it.
I don't think we've talked about the Arrow of Kurnos.
No, I think you actually said you were going to talk about it later.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, I love the fluff of this rule. So the whole idea is that at the start of any battle that the Wood Elves are in, the best archer in the army takes a pot shot at the enemy general.
To signal the start.
To signal the start. Yeah, they're ready to go. And, it's not enough to kill. It's not supposed to be enough to kill. It's supposed to be a slap in the face. It's like, here's how good we are. We can shoot your general from way back here.
Yeah.
And so basically the way it works is if the enemy general is within 36 inches and within line of sight of at least one of your models with that special rule, he takes a strength 3 hit with no armor saves.
Which is really good at getting rid of Charm Shield.
Very good at that. It's like, yep, no Charm Shield for you anymore.
And then you'll start unleashing the Waywatchers.
Yeah. Or at least it means, you can fire off your Amber Spear or whatever it is, right in the first turn. The other thing it's kind of neat for is those armies that like to have their leader be a wizard, their general be a wizard. So the Grey Seers, for example, although they normally have a ward save, but it's still not bad. You're more likely to wound something like that because they tend to be less tough, and that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
It's a fluff rule. It's got a few neat side effects. Half the time you're going to forget to use it.
Yeah. Every now and again it's going to actually do something, but it's going to be fun every time. So.
It is. It's a poke in the eye, and I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the options available to the Lord. He can have all of the same types of enchanted arrows that we mentioned under the Glade Guard, which is nice because if you put him in a unit, it's nice to be able to just give him the same arrows as the unit if that's what you want to do. That can be very handy, so you don't have to worry about like. One thing I did, for example, is I had a character in a unit with True Flight, and so everyone but him was just hitting on 3+. And for him, because he didn't have True Flight, it was like, okay, now I got to calculate, did I move? All the rest of it.
All of a sudden you have to remember what you did.
Yeah, where it's a whole lot easier to just say, oh, he hits on a 2+. So that's nice. And you can also mix it up, right, if you want to. I don't know if there's any particularly like great combinations that would spring to mind.
I know. I just think in general for these characters, the Swift Shiver end up being really nice because it's just multi-shot, right? And you already have such high ballistic skill that you might
like
even end up hitting on a 2-up.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's like double True Flight.
Yeah, that's
4
true.
points for 2 shots a turn.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. He can also take a spear, an additional hand weapon, a great weapon, all that sort of stuff you might expect.
The Sari spear too, which is armor piercing.
That's right, spear. Yep.
Yeah, so it's going to be strength 4 armor piercing.
Yeah, which is not to be sniffed at. And then he has 4 mount choices. The Elven Steed. It's interesting. The Elven Steed only costs 10 points for hero characters, but 20 points for lords, and they're no different in profile. It's just I don't quite get.
Well,
that.
sometimes they make the options different based on like the advantage that it gives to one over the other.
Yeah,
but I mean it's arguable.
It's really funny.
I mean, you can see like a great weapon is gives more of an advantage to someone with more attacks. So often you see a great weapon being more for a lord, but the horse. I mean, for Dark Elves, I think their lord just pays the same 10 points or 12 for a horse.
That's weird.
So I don't know why it's different for what else.
Well, it is, and that's what we've got.
Yeah.
You can be mounted on the Great Eagle, a Great Stag, which we'll go into in just a minute, or a Forest Dragon. So Great Stag and Forest Dragon. Great Stag was available before, but you had to take one of the special kindreds, the Wild Rider kindred, which by itself cost 50 points just to take that kindred. And then it restricted you to only having light armor options and magic spears. You couldn't take any other magical weapons or armor.
Yeah, it was really complicated.
It was very complicated, and nobody ever did it. Certainly not on a lord level, because it made your lord like 400 points for something. Anyway.
Something that was still tough 3.
Yeah. Well, no, it was tough 4 because it was on a stag.
Only after they amended it.
Only after they amended it, that's true.
Because it wasn't like that originally.
So the Great Stag, what did they changed the stats of the Great Stag from the Wood Elf book from the previous edition and made it like the Great Stag in Storm of Magic. So he's move 9, strength 5, which is very nice, tough 4 and 3 wounds, and impact 2 attacks, but impact hits D3. Yep, causes fear.
Can do a big hits.
Yeah. So, and then the Forest Dragon at 300 points. If you like to ride around on dragons, now you've got that option for your lord. Okay, so, any other thoughts or anything about the lord? He's kind of bland.
He's kind of bland. I mean, there's no. I mean, obviously, he's what else? There's not much armor choices, but it would have been nice if they had made it like more viable to have a kind of combat lord in a Wild Rider unit, because that just seems really cool.
Well, it is he has 100 points of magic items, so you can do all the standard combat kind of builds on him.
But I would have loved to get a 1-up armor save on him and then just Dawnstone him up.
Yeah, I guess.
That's the problem, though, is it's all the standard stuff.
Yeah.
One of the nice things about the old book was that it did have a ton of the old magic items in it. And so you could get, all sorts of different and interesting ward saves, which meant, you could make your characters a little more survivable. But it's all the standard stuff, so it's not terribly interesting or characterful. It's like I can take the build that every other elf lord can take.
Right.
I don't have anything really to make me unique, and we'll come into that when we go into the magic items. The magic items are a bit on the swingy side. I think they're either really great or really terrible.
Yeah, and the ones that are great seem to be equally as great on the hero.
On the
level
hero,
character,
yeah,
so-
exactly. Yeah.
I guess really his only reason to take him is for the leadership 10, but you can get that from the Dreaming Ancient too, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, there are other ways to get it. I could see him being useful in certain list builds. You can always still tool him up with a giant blade, other trickster shard.
Yeah, but I just want a higher armor save on him if I was going to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can get 3 up, right? Best.
You can get to 3 up as best. You mount him, light armor, shield, and
You just want it all,
Special
don't you,
hat.
Tom?
And a
You just
special
want it
hat.
all.
Or the charmed shield, or the enchanted shield.
enchanted shield, or the one of the heavy armors with the
Yeah.
ward. Yeah. It would have been nice to be able to get to a 2 up without having to take the armor of silvered steel.
Yeah.
But such is life. I mean, it's not very wood elfy.
It's true. It's true.
But
Wood elf in armor of silver seal runner
hey, I painted
glittering through the woods.
I painted up a great lord, a lord with a great weapon wearing that. But
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, we can talk about that when we get to some of the balance stuff when we're talking later. Okay, moving on from the Glade Lord, as disappointing as he was in terms of blandness, the Spellweaver Lord is probably scintillating in comparison. So the spell... Oh, I forgot to mention that the Glade Lord was 145 points, which I think is...
Pretty standard. I think 140 maybe for a Dark Elf Lord.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember what it was in the previous book. And I'm not sure off the top of my head how many points he cost before. I think he was around about that amount. Yeah, he was exactly that amount, 145. Okay, so the Spellweaver. So the Spellweaver is the Lord level spellcaster. She gets the Blessings of the Ancients, which gives her the +1 to cast in a forest. And she's dropped from 215 down to 185 for level 3, and then 35 points for the upgrade. So, I mean, that's a huge drop now. It's 220 for my level 4 as opposed to 250. And the big change that everybody's now fully aware of is that she has access to all 8 lores of the battle magic, just like the other elves, and high magic and dark magic. This might be the right time to talk about magic selection. I don't know, but we can certainly we'll talk. Why don't we talk about the lore of high and lore of dark, the lore attributes and stuff?
Okay, yeah, so, that only
Let's also
applies to
point
her.
out she can take a bow. That's
Ooh.
fun.
She used to come with a bow as standard.
Well, she dropped 30 points.
Yeah, she dropped. So technically, she only dropped 25.
She can't take the magic arrows, but she can take a long bow.
She can take a bow. Yeah. And I'm glad that she can, because one of the cool things was people were always surprised when your wizard had a bow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep.
What?
Yeah.
And then let's just go over the mounts too. She could be on the steed again.
Yep. Steed for 20
Great
points.
Eagle.
Yep.
And then the fun one, the unicorn, for 60 points. Which I still just want to see that. I want to see somebody dancing around that unicorn.
Hey, I used it against Tom to
Yeah.
good effect.
There was they do impact hits, don't they? Aren't they pretty good?
No, they have
Magic
impale,
resistance.
which is basically like they get a lance effectively.
Okay.
So Aiden stuck one in the sister unit, and then it has the 2 up against magic. So
Yeah.
because the unicorn has magic resistance too. So
So unicorn in that's
unicorn and
nasty.
sisters, yeah.
But they lose their fast cav.
Oh,
So you
okay.
have to be comfortable with them just being a regular cav unit. And so what I did was, in this particular, I had her on Lore of Dark, and
Just Hail Married her in there and then cast the stupid leadership bomb spell.
It was hilarious. And his army
All of these
collapsed.
men went away.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So let's talk
We
about
were
magic
we
now.
were laughing our asses off when it
was
happened.
hilarious.
Yeah.
So it was the first test of the new Wood Elf book, and it was over in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, that's pretty good book.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this book is broken. Woo!
Okay, so the lore of high magic, I think we first saw in the High Elf book when they redid it. The Lizard Man can also take it with a different lore attribute, and of course, true to form, the Wood Elves have a different lore attribute. I love the lore attribute for this. So the way that it works is that whenever you cast a spell, you get a counter that you put beside the wizard. And then if he or a model in the same unit as him suffers a wound, and you've still got one of these little counters, you take the counter away and treat it as if the wound had never happened.
And you
so,
just build up a big load of resistance against attacks coming your way.
For sure. And with the low casting costs of a lot of the high magic spells, like 7, 8, 5, 5, 8. There's 6 spells in there, or 5 or 6 spells that are all very low casting cost.
That you could almost get with 1 die on your level 4 in the woods.
Easily. Yeah. If you don't mind, throwing 1 at the end of the magic phase, or keeping 2 and trying for both.
Yeah, you just build up some counters.
Or that like in that first phase of the game when you're too far away from everything and you roll an 11 dice phase, you're like, oh my god, it's wasted. It's not wasted anymore.
Yeah, then you can start throwing out Apotheosis and
Hand of Glory, all these things you don't need really.
Could you do drain magic? Could you do drain magic even if there's nothing to drain?
Sure.
Why not?
Sure, throw it on there. Get another mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
And so this is great. Somebody shoots a cannon at you, boom, it's gone. It's as if that never happened.
Yeah, super sweet.
And I also think, when you start thinking about what you can do when you put it in a unit, that's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
So if your wizard is the counter goes with the wizard, so the wizard, if it can move around from unit to unit and potentially
so you
offer
move the protection with the wizard into.
You move the protection with the wizard.
I wish you could put this wizard on a giant dragon. So then you would have a wizard who is immune to cannonballs. That would be
too sweet. Yeah.
That would be sweet.
And this paired with Apotheosis, can Apotheosis heal rank and file, or is it only big monsters?
You have to have it's characters and monsters only, I think.
A single model.
Yeah. So
anything else would be dead at that point?
Pretty much.
Okay.
You can use it on Warhawk Riders and Great Eagles and stuff.
Treemen that are dancing. Okay.
Yeah. And he can use it on himself.
I was going to say, if you could do both, then you could build up those tokens and then also do that. And so you're just
for sure.
Moral life at that point.
Yeah. Okay, so then Lore of Dark. Obviously, Lore of Dark is a bit more of an offensive lore.
It's a vicious lore.
It is. So I'm not going to go through the lore itself, but to just talk about the lore attribute again. So we've talked a little bit about kind of the dichotomy of the Wood Elves in the fluff that they created. They're kind of half good, half bad. And there's a lot of things that kind of are reflected in that in the rules, and this is one of them. Being able to take both high magic and dark magic, and the positive side of the high magic is you have these protection counters, and the negative side in the dark magic is you have these vengeance counters, as they're called. And so what happens is whenever you cast a spell on an enemy unit that's not dispelled, you put a vengeance counter on it, and then whenever you cast a spell that does hits, those vengeance counters are all removed, and you do an extra D3 hits for each vengeance counter. So
you can throw the hexes first, and then build up some counters before you throw a big doom bolt.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can
Blade Wind. What are the other ones that would that would expend the tokens. So
Basically
would-
everything except for Word of Pain and Shroud of Despair.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
And so the interesting part about this, and one of the things that was a rules question earlier on, was about the Black Horror. Because the Black Horror is a vortex with a template, but everything under the template still gets hit.
Mm-hmm.
So you hit everything under the template, it takes its strength test, and then you do D3 more hits.
Yeah.
Right.
And that could be multiple more than that. So it's basically you're able to inflict some more strength tests, and that could be particularly nasty on like ogres or something like that, where it's only a small template, so you're only going to hit a handful of models, but now you're going to force D3 extra models to take a strength test effectively.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to read the wording on the spell. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think vortexes in general, and this one also. I don't think you take hits. It's often you just take a test and then you die, or something, which seems to be the case with this. There's no hits ever mentioned.
Except if you read the rules under vortexes in the rule book, it says that you place the vortex template and everything under the template is hit. And so
I would assume, I know it becomes tricky with wording, I would assume
Exactly.
that means everything under is affected by the template and then takes your strength test or whatever, but
So
I agree with wording, it becomes
kind of
ambiguous.
tricky, yeah. And so do you play it that one does use the vengeance counter, or do you play it that anything that gets hit by the vortex takes a vengeance counter? So this is another question, right? It's got to be one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Either you're affected by it and the vengeance counter comes off.
If I was the Wood Elf player, I would assume that you're not going to do extra hits because there's no actual hits
I
happening,
would
but
say you add a token.
you add a token once the spell's gone
Interesting.
off.
Because I would say it would be the direct damages and the magic missiles, which you have. You have
Although
4 of those.
it does
there.
also specifically say in the rules that vortexes have no target, and this says you put a counter by the target
Yeah.
unit. So
Yeah.
then I don't know if either happens.
I don't think that's true, because it does say that vortexes hit, and so the big thread of discussion that we had about it when the book first came out kind of ended up most people falling on the side of the argument that the vortex did hit.
But then the hit translates to another characteristic test,
Yeah.
essentially. Because I normally think of a hit as being associated with a strength,
Well,
not like take a characteristic test.
I don't think that's true either, because there's plenty of stuff like in the Skaven book that says it's automatically hit, and then it takes a toughness test to see if it dies, or things like that. There's stuff in there like that, and it feels even worse to say it neither gets a counter nor uses a counter. That doesn't make any sense to me either.
I think it's got to do one or the other.
It's got to do one or the
think?
other, yeah.
But
I would play on the conservative side and just say it does neither. If I was playing with this as a Wood Elf player, I think.
I would have no preference. I would let the Wood Elf player decide when they were rolling against me. If I was using it, I probably would add the token.
I mean, if you're going to get smashed by a black horror in the face, an extra D3 more.
Well, it
Test
could be
is
even
probably
more
not
than
gonna
that.
make
It could
it. Yeah, that's true. If
it
you
could
built
be
up the
3
counters.
D3. That could be pretty brutal. But
Yeah, and if you play it that it puts counters on there, then it's like, okay, I'm going to sweep this across all of your dudes so that they all get a vengeance counter. That's a great tactic in and of itself. But
I think it could be the topic of a lot of argument in tournaments.
yeah,
Tournament organizers will need to have a clear ruling.
and
Yeah.
and we come to another failing of the book, right?
Yeah,
It's like lots of problems on rulings.
well, what if they decided on the Wood Elf forum?
It causes hits.
Causes it?
Yeah.
Of course, they've decided that on the Wood Elf forum.
Actually, the Wood Elf forum is pretty brutal against itself.
Yeah.
And that's I find
I
the
like
same
to
on
see that
the
when-
Lizard
yeah.
Man forum. They were pretty brutal against themselves as well.
I mean, I always assume it's safer to take the more conservative track with whatever you're playing and
Yep.
assume that it's not the thing that seems super awesome for you.
I don't think it's that awesome.
Either way, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Not really.
I
So
really don't.
Yeah,
look
it's
at
probably
it.
not
Like,
a big game
I
changer.
feel like this lore attribute is super weak.
Yeah.
But the lore, like the lore
Right.
itself, the spells
Very
are
strong.
just
Kind of like
so strong.
Kind of like a lore of Shadow deal. Amazing
Yeah.
lore with an attribute that, meh.
Meh, it's not going to do that
Yeah.
much all the time. Why the high magic one is really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just negating some wounds here and there. Like you said, a cannonball all of a sudden being ignored, so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, especially if it means you can put her on a unicorn and let her run around by herself potentially, right? Because
Yeah.
she's much less likely to get shot off.
Yeah.
Or wait till she's got a couple of counters on have her in the unit until she has a couple of counters, then she can
shoot
zip off on her
yeah,
own.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, interesting stuff. Huh? Actually, never mind. I was just thinking about a build involving the Shield of Tolos and various other things.
I wish she could ride a dragon.
Yeah, it'd be cool if she could ride a dragon. Okay, so on to the last regular Lord. And this is another pretty significant change, the Tree Man Ancient. So the biggest change here is that the Tree Man Ancient kind of forgot how to fight.
I know, they just made him weak sauce in combat. God.
So he's only weapon skill 4, and just like the other Tree Man, strength 5, tough 6, back up to 6 wounds.
6 wounds.
Only 3 attacks.
Come on.
Yeah, that to me is just weak. I could understand.
Bullshit. What happens to tree men as they get old? What happens to tree men as they get old? They get weak and frail until they get
Unless
super
they're
old like Dirthu. Then they remember how to fight again. It's like the rebirth.
Yeah, so there's that. The Tree Man Ancient is now leadership 10. So as Ricky pointed out, you can get
Stubborn.
LD 10.
Good general now.
Stubborn. Well, they were always a good general. You've got an 18-inch range on your because you're a large target, but exceptional now at leadership 10. Big points drop from 385 down to 290. That's pretty significant. And the real difference is they're now a level 2 wizard on Lore of Life.
What did they used to be?
There used to be no wizard at all. It was 385. They were exactly the same profile as a standard tree man, except they were leadership 9.
So what did you get for your extra 100 points?
You got the ability...
Combat.
you had the ability to take spites. So you could take the annoyance of nettlings and only be hitting 6s in a challenge.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I remember winning so many challenges with that.
That was the guy you fanged into the Demon Prince because the Demon Prince just couldn't hit him.
Oh, I always put that on my Lord with a great weapon, and he would just run in and challenge everybody.
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah, because then your toughness 3 doesn't matter if you can't hit me.
Yeah.
So the Tree Man Ancient can be upgraded to level 4 wizard, 35 points a level as you go up. It's all on Lore of Life, and again, can take a Strangle Roots just like the regular Tree Man for 20 points.
So, yeah, this guy here is the guy that can function. He's not the best in combat, but he can function in every phase of the game.
He can.
Magic, shooting.
Yep.
He's also, a great general.
Yeah.
And if you're taking a monster
top
mash,
6 wounds.
Yeah.
6 wounds.
He does very well in the please shoot my 350 point general off the table with a cannon phase.
He does.
Yes, he does. Yes, that's
but he does have the 6th wound, so you do need to roll the 6 to shoot him off with a one shot.
Or 2 cannons.
Or 2 cannons, which is what a lot of people do. Yes.
Dude, I'm running this guy.
So at 360 as a level 4 wizard, he's pretty vulnerable.
Yeah.
But if you take him with other tree men, the target saturation thing kicks in.
Yeah, I love him in a tree man spam list because Lore of Life is really nice in that list
Fantastic
as
in
well.
that list.
and when you look at he's 360, how much is a level 4 Spellweaver and a Glade Lord together? Which is basically what you're getting here.
Same price.
Yeah, so you basically roll those two together into one package. You're locked into Lore of Life, which is still an amazing lore for Wood Elves. So,
the downside is you can't customize this guy.
Mm-hmm.
No.
That's the part that made me
No
sad.
magic items.
No magic items, no special, spites or
Yeah,
anything
it would
like
have been
that.
nice if just like some of the slam abilities kind of thing, maybe just 4 things to choose from to
Yeah.
upgrade him with a
Something
bit.
would
That
be
would have
fun.
been nice.
Yeah. And
We
so
all love customizing our characters. That's why
we play
characters are so
Warhammer,
great, yeah.
right? It's why we don't play
Kings of War.
or historical games. It's
Yeah.
because we want the big shiny characters. And so that to me was a little bit of a letdown. However, this still has the tree whack, still in a very effective general.
Yeah.
But again, you have to kind of, I think, tailor your list
Yeah,
to
I
take
think
it.
in certain lists,
Well,
it would
and
be a
also-
great general.
I think the 290 points makes him usable in really small games too. That normally you probably couldn't afford to take.
True 1500.
Yeah.
You can still
You
you
can
can
still-
still get him up to a level 4 wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1500.
Yeah, and even more so, you can take 2 of them in a 2,500 point. So you could take 4 tree men in a 2,500 point.
If you don't upgrade them, or?
If you don't upgrade them, yeah, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
under sub 300. That brings you up to 580.
Yeah.
You
You could upgrade one of them, maybe even.
could upgrade one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Or you can just take him and Dirthu, which is a nicer combo because you got your combat tree man and your
And your pew pew tree.
shooty tree man.
Okay.
Can you fit that into 2,500?
To 2500.
Let's go
Dirthu's
talk about
380.
Dirthu. Dirthu's 385, so,
Yes,
so you can't do it. You can't do it,
Damn
which
it.
is a shame. So let's talk about Dirthu now.
Okay.
Because I think we're
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
alright,
talking
let's
about.
talk about Dirthu. Yeah.
Yeah, we just got those. Yeah, the Glade Lord spell Weaver, Treatment Ancient. Those are your basic,
Those are your basic.
Three lord
unnamed
choices.
characters.
Yeah, so let's
talk
go to
about
the named ones.
The lords that are special characters. Yeah.
Dirthu. Okay, so
Yay, our favorite.
yeah,
He's
Well, I
awesome.
do like her a lot.
I like Dirthu. I mean, we talked about his special rules when he was in the pit, but I'll run over them real quick.
His stat line is like what a tree man should be. Like I'm just gonna.
They all
kick
should be
your
like
ass.
that. Yeah. So he's weapon skill 7, strength 6, tough 6, 6 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 10. In your face.
Yeah.
He's a level 1 wizard on Lore of Beasts, so he can boost himself
In case you want strength and toughness 7.
because why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Or on the very off, the off chance that you roll the Savage Beast of Horror.
Beast.
Yeah.
9 strength, 9 attacks.
Yes. 10 because he has Frenzy.
Oh yeah.
You're maxing out.
Yep.
So he's got Frenzy, he's got Hatred, so he gets those rerolls even against those pesky elves that you're fighting against. And he's still flammable like other tree men. He gets that Blessings of the Ancient, so he casts like a level 2 if he's in a forest. And then he's got this Lamentation of Despairs, which is a neat little shooting attack that he can do. It's only range 12, strength 2, but it's 2d6 multiple shots killing blow, which is pretty funny. I mean, it's not really. It's every now and again it's going to do something amazing.
Yeah.
But in general, it's just going to put a bit of fear into people, which is
Sure.
what it should be. Yeah. So yeah, he's pretty cool. He's 385 points though, and he is a 385 point cannon magnet. There's no doubt about it. So again, you got to run some kind of list with target saturation to make him not be kicked off. Model is beautiful. Thank you very much, Ricky.
Yeah.
Love looking at it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with that guy.
So
Forever
it
to
is-
paint, but it's a fun one.
Very nice combat character. Maybe
Yep.
still a little on the pricey side for what you get for
Yeah,
him.
the
but
fact that he's not at least level 2, really, I think 385 is a little spendy for him. But I think he's gonna perform.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you do, like me, miss the old tree man.
Yeah, and you just want to combat tree beast.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Take him and throw him in there. He's probably going to have to be your general because you're not likely to be able to afford another level 10 leadership character.
And if you do just want to go for some reason for a super combat oriented wood elf list, then just makes the natural general.
He's a
really.
man. Yeah,
he's
for
your
sure.
man.
What I really would have liked to see is that the Treeman Ancients were maybe... I'd be okay with them being slower and what have you, but if they were like tougher...
Like they've gone all gnarly.
And they've got like a 2-up armor save or, like a tough 7 or something that's just a little different. because really when you start to see sixes in a stat line, that's like every other monster, right?
Yeah.
And what makes monsters stand out is when, like the Great Unclean One, they're tough 7, or like the Kadai, they're strength 7. These are pretty outstanding monsters. And so Tree Man,
I think the 2-up or even 1-up armor would have, maybe 2-up, would have been a nice touch, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been a bit different,
Yep. All right, so that's Durthu. Araloth. All right, well, this is a new guy.
I love him.
A new guy, but kind of a reincarnation of an old guy.
He's a reincarnation. Some of you may remember Ska, the Falconer. He was one of those roadkill-looking models that had a hawk on one arm. So Araloth, one of the nice new Clampack plastic kits. He is the
Lord of
Talson, which is one of the new regions that they've
the biggest
named.
realm, right?
Yeah, it's basically the generic realm, as I like to refer to it as.
Yeah.
And so here's our generic special character.
Vanilla
Lord,
Wood Elf.
Yeah, and he kind of feels that way, but I think he's pretty fun.
I think he's pretty neat. He got an extra pip of weapon skill over the regular Lord, so he's weapon skill 8. And he's got 5 attacks instead of 4, which is nice. And the really cool thing about him, he's got 3 special rules that are interesting and fluffy. One is, he's stubborn, but he has this boldest of the bold special rule, which means when he's not in a unit, he's unbreakable. Which, it's kind of actually insane because he's still a toughness 3 elf.
He has a 4-up ward save.
He has a 4-up ward save.
But still only toughness 3 elf with 3 wounds, yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And a shield. It's important. He's got a shield. Guy. Look out, he's got a 6-up armor.
He has no light armor?
No light armor. He's just got a shield. Yeah, I know.
The model has light armor.
So there he goes. He's got a 4-up ward, like you said. Because he's got the favor of the goddess. It's not a special, it's not a magic item, so it can't be unforged off of him.
Right.
It's an actual special rule. In fact, I don't think he has any magic items.
No, he doesn't.
It's all special rules for him. And then he's got the Scaran the Eye Thief, which is this hawk that rides on his shoulder.
It's absurd.
It is absurd. It's funny. So you basically...
It's never going to work, so but it's fun.
No, it does work. It just doesn't do the big thing. So the way that it works is at the start of each turn, so not in the combat phase, not in the shooting phase, at the start of the turn, pick any single enemy model within 18 inches, and it takes a strength 4 hit. So this is the falcon flying in and attacking whoever Araloth points at. That's not to be sniffed at, especially when you consider...
it is a sniper.
It's basically a snipe shot that isn't shooting. It always hits, and it's strength 4, not strength 3. And on the off chance that you roll a to wound roll of a 6, the model takes a -5 penalty to weapon skill and initiative. Basically because the claw scratched the
for the rest of the game.
For the rest of the game,
Yeah.
the hawk scratched his eyes out.
Yeah.
It's unlikely you're going to get that penalty, but taking a strength 4 hit on something is a neat little extra.
Yeah, especially if you're using the characters we'll talk about later, the Waystalkers, paired with them, you could be killing people's wizards off pretty quick between the two.
For sure. I think, because he's stubborn, you can put him into a unit of...
Rangers.
Wildwood Rangers and make them stubborn, and now you can actually have them be in a forest.
Yep.
You can do it with any of them, but I think they probably make the most sense.
Or they're going to get the biggest bonus.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or just a huge unit of Glade Guard if you're doing that. But I would think the Wildwood Rangers for sure.
Yep. Okay.
And he would look cool standing in there with them.
Yeah. It's a beautiful model. I do like it.
Yeah. I'm going to paint that one up soon.
Looking forward to seeing it.
One more.
And one more in Lords?
Yeah, Orion.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
he's on the wrong page.
Here's half an hour of talking.
Oh, that's a lot of rules.
Okay, I'm gonna say flat out that I really like Orion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
He is way overpointed by about 200 points. He's a 600 point model.
At least.
Just do it. Just take him.
I mean, he's nowhere near as good as any of the greater demons, or anything like along those lines. Even any of the special characters in the demons book that are similar points. But you know what? I like him anyway because he's the king, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he is Elvis of the Elves. And
he's mad as hell.
He is mad as hell.
He is Elvis of the Elves. I mean, that's so messed up.
Yeah, so
you got to get a velvet painting of Orion from the dungeon down here.
Nice. I do actually have 2 Orion models because one of them I got most of 2 Orion models. One of them was a bit pitted from the fine casting, so they sent me another one. So maybe there's a conversion opportunity in there. Anyway, okay, so Orion, he's a monster special character. Move 9, weapon skill, ballistic skill 8. So finally we have back to the highest ballistic skill in the game again. Apart from Bloodthirsters, which I don't understand. But anyway.
Bloodthirsters have...
Ballistic skill 10 for no reason because they can't shoot. It's ridiculous. Don't ask me why. Everybody's looking confused. If anyone knows why Bloodthirsters have ballistic skill 10, please tell us. He's strength 6. He's only tough 5.
I think they did that just to insult the people who play Khorne.
Maybe. Maybe.
Sorry, go on.
That's all right. 5 wounds, initiative 9, 5 attacks, and leadership 10. So he gets always strikes first with initiative 9, which is pretty fun. That means you even get rerolls against a demon prince.
All right, so this Bloodthirster's 0.
That Bloodthirster 0, but in the New Demons book, which is on the shelf over there,
is 10.
Is 10. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Okay, sorry.
So ASF and Forest Stalker, just like everything else, he's frenzied. So that 5 attacks goes to 6. He causes terror and he's unbreakable. Yeah. So he used to be unbreakable, but he had a kind of weird unstable rule. That's gone now, thankfully.
Yeah, thank goodness.
The other special rule that he has is these Orion's Equerry special rule, which is basically his war dogs that can come with him. If you take the hounds, I think they cost 20 points. You get 2 hounds, and he must go in a unit with them. So basically, you deploy them beside him in that unit. He can't join a unit anymore because he's a monster. He used to be monstrous infantry, so you could put him in a unit of like.
I wish he could sick the hounds out, but they don't do that with these guys.
Yeah,
like he used to be able to with the hunters, and they'd have the saber tusks.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I always wished that Orion could
send his hounds out.
Sick 'em!
Well, what only take 2 hounds?
Yeah.
That'd be sweet if you could just like keep adding them for 20 points apart.
Yeah.
And just take like.
Well, it's 20 points gets you both hounds. So I guess it's kind of like Phobos and Deimos kind of thing. It's his 2 hounds. The other thing is that because I really wish that he was still monstrous infantry, or something, because it would have been really nice to have him actually be in a unit of Wild Riders, and you can't do that.
No.
From a fluff perspective, that makes
that would
a ton of sense. But okay, so those are special rules.
Hard.
Very hard. Very hard. And at that point, wouldn't it be cool if you could go in there and get a lookout sir from the Wild Riders? Then he would, at 600 points, I would even take him because I know he wouldn't die instantly. Anyway, okay.
Or if there was a rule where, he dies, but then the next turn one of the Wild Riders gets to be reborn as Orion again. That would kind of be fluffy.
Whoa. You did blow my mind.
All right. Games Workshop will be phoning me up tomorrow. They can use that idea.
Yep. You'll direct the next book.
Yeah.
Okay.
10 years from now.
So where things become interesting is when we go into his magic items.
Yeah, I actually was confused because he has.
I'm going to start
shooting ones.
I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up.
Okay.
And that's
there you go.
That's deliberate. Works. So the Horn of the Wild Hunt.
He's got the horn.
He's got the horn. It's an enchanted item. So he can, at the start of each turn, all friendly Wood Elf units within 6 inches get devastating charge. So this, I think, ties in with the fluff that they have in the new books for him, which is, when he makes the call to the Wild Hunt, all of the elves, no matter who they are, kind of get swept up in his frenzy, which is kind of cool. But really what you want is it to give just +1 attack instead, because then it could affect Wild Riders.
Well, yeah, it should give double devastating charge to Wild Riders as well, because they, fluff-wise, should be getting super pumped.
Yeah, exactly.
Super stoked.
So
I'm so stoked.
That's a little disappointing that it doesn't affect the most fluffy unit, but I get where they're coming from with it. Then the Cloak of Isha, this got a bit of a bump from the last time. It's a 5 upward save and magic res 2, so he's got a 3 upward against spells. And then at the start of each turn, you roll a d6, and if you roll a 6, he gets a wound back, which is not bad.
Sure.
Now, it's interesting. I don't think, like, there used to be the Orion's Equerries, the Hounds, used to be extra wound tokens for him. Is that not the case anymore?
No, you could randomize when you're shooting at it. You would randomize to the hounds, right?
Yes, you would randomize for shooting attacks, but that's it.
You would randomize.
Or you could allocate the wounds, probably. But otherwise...
You'd have to
allocate to each. So in shooting, it kind of helps a bit.
It helps a bit.
But not a ton.
You can still cannonball him and he can't get a look out.
For sure. So he's still very vulnerable because he's got no armor save. He's only got that 5 upward.
You're going to want to rock you're not going to afford another Lord level character, but you'll want to rock like a level 2 life wizard with him. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, probably. Realistically, he's not takeable in a small army. You got to have him in only 3,000 plus points and probably higher than that before you even think about taking him. Okay, and then the reason I left the weapons for last is because there's been a bit of debate about some of them. So
debate about this book?
Surely not. Surely not. Yeah. Okay, so the Hawk's Talon is his magic bow. So it's a missile weapon, range 30 inches, strength 5, multiple shots 6.
Solid. With ballistic skill 8.
Solid. It's kind of like a better repeater bolt thrower.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so he can move. Well, he can march. No, he can't march. He can move 9 inches and then shoot it, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
I like that a lot.
It's a nice weapon.
And then the Spear of Kurnos. So this is the one that has some of the debate around it. So it's a magic weapon. It's got a range of 18 inches and it's strength 7 and does multiple wounds D3. Now, you cannot take armor saves against wounds caused by the Spear of Kurnos.
So it's like he is a repeater bolt thrower. He gets to just choose one of the modes.
But at +1 strength.
Yeah, right.
Right. Now, here's the question, or the debate. Is the Spear of Kurnos his close combat weapon?
Oh, so that he's strength 7.
No. More. All of that is debatable about any of that stuff, but really, it doesn't say he has any kind of hand weapon.
Everything has a hand weapon.
No, but everything is called out as having a hand weapon. We read through every other entry in the book, and they all have.
Yeah, I think it specifically says in the army book that if nothing is listed, then it's assumed to have a hand weapon.
But why wouldn't he fight with the spear? It does not say that it is. It doesn't say that it's a ranged weapon.
Well, it doesn't have a combat profile, right?
So you just fight with it as regular.
We'll see.
As regular strength.
Here's the thing, and I know we shouldn't ever base it on fluff, but the fluff above does say that is his normal hand weapon. He just has a habit of throwing it at people. So I remember reading that in his fluff, right? So I know we shouldn't ever base rules off of fluff, but I would say that and like Aiden says, every other unit in the book here, probably even the Great Eagles, no, not the Great Eagles, but every other unit has hand weapon listed. Eroloth has hand weapon and his spear listed.
But this is obviously not. I mean, it has no combat profile. This weapon.
It doesn't need one because Well, I mean, other than the fact that
Well,
It
obviously,
just says it's a magic weapon.
but obviously none of the rules that are listed under this profile would be used in combat. The strength
Sure.
7 or the
Right,
multiple
right.
wounds.
Yeah, but look at the Hawk's Talon. The Hawk's Talon says it's a missile weapon with the following profile, right? Whereas the spear says it's a magic weapon that can be used to make shooting attacks.
Okay.
And so let's assume
So is the difference just that whether you would get magical attacks in combat or not?
it's actually, do you get to make armor saves against his attacks in combat or not? Because there's a line by itself that says armor saves cannot
No, I
be taken
understand.
against wounds caused by the spear of Kurnos.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I look at it is,
Okay, I would say that yeah, you can't take them, and here's why: because it says shoots as a bolt thrower up above.
Yeah.
Bolt throwers in their rules say specifically you can't take armor saves against them, so they don't need to put that in there for the shooting aspect of it. They put that down there for the combat aspect of it. That's what I'm saying.
okay,
So I'm thinking that you would not get armor saves.
I don't think you get armor saves in close combat
And if
against his
somebody wants
attacks.
to stab me with
I agree with you.
And I'm going to say to anyone
If
who
it was
challenges you,
600
it's
points,
600
screw
points.
you.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I spend 600 points on this, bro.
And
Yeah.
all you got to do is take some measly rune fang to get it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah, if
Yeah, I'd be
you,
happy to take no armor saves against him.
exactly.
somebody wants to spend 600 points on a character that can get cannoned off the table,
Yeah,
by all means, no armor
Yeah.
saves.
yeah, exactly. So that's Orion. He's one of those guys that you love and leave behind because
Just too expensive.
he's too expensive.
Just rock him once in the game.
Oh, you gotta.
Just do it.
I would love to get him into the pit at some time. Whenever, maybe when we do a super heavyweight.
Yeah, he might be able to take
Blends.
out. Only person who could take out Cetra, maybe.
Cetra. All right.
I don't know what we're gonna do about Cetra.
I don't know. We'll see. But that was Lords, and we will rock on into Heroes.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the Humble Glade Captain, which is what the Noble has been renamed to be. Still the same Elf Hero profile. Still the only dude you can take is your BSB for an extra 25 points. He's dropped a little now. He's 75 points base. Comes with the bow, light armor, hand weapon, ASF, the same Arrow of Kurnos rule that the Lord has.
Yeah.
In fact, all round he's like half the price of the Lord and way better value.
Yeah. Agreed.
The only difference is he can't ride a dragon, boo, and can only take 50 points of magic items like most heroes.
And leadership.
He's leadership 9. Other than that, almost everything about him is like, chances are, if you wanted to take a Glade Lord to do something, you're probably better off taking 2 Glade Captains.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you're going to see probably 1 in most armies as your BSB. This is you don't need it. There's certain builds that just won't need this, won't need a BSB, and so you don't necessarily need to take it. It used to be in the previous one, you couldn't live without it because you're relying a lot on Tree Man and you needed those rerolls, but now. So he gets the same enchanted arrows, Elven Steed, Great Eagle Stag. As we said, the Steed's only 10 points for him. So, you can throw a naked one of these guys on an Elven Steed, give him a great weapon and a shield, and he'll have a 4-up armor save, and he will be strength 6 with 3 attacks, and he will only cost you 93 points, which is not bad.
Nah.
It's a little
not bad.
It's a little expensive as a redirector.
Only a 5 up in combat.
Only a 5 up in combat, but he's ASF. Oh, he's ASF, so he'll be attacking on initiative 7 with a great weapon.
Maybe just with the spear works out as the better option.
Spear's not bad. He becomes strength 5 armor
I
piercing.
don't think I'd ever do that as a redirector. That's just too expensive for a redirector.
Yeah.
I would do that as 3 of them in the front of a unit and then smash face with him. But
Then he's still no better offensively than just a regular Wild Rider.
Yeah, Wild Riders
They're
do
still better. That's
Wild
the
Riders
ridiculous
is
thing.
yeah. Yeah. I can see you doing that as
in an emergency, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't build one just for
they're
that
not going to
purpose.
fulfill the role that Masters do in a Dark Elf army, where
Well,
they just
those-
have 1 up and
Those
can
guys
just
are broken.
roll the board on their own.
It's
Yeah.
just ridiculous how
Yeah.
silly they are. But yeah, no, they're not. I think though, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. But I think he's not a bad points value for what he is.
Agreed. As a BSB,
he's a BSB 100 points.
As a BSB 100 points flat. Yeah. That's solid.
Yeah, and you can no matter what kit out you give him, he's going to be under 200 points.
Mm-hmm. Just have him anchoring the bow line maybe to make sure that everybody passes their swift reform tests.
Which is pretty much how I run him.
Yeah.
Put him in there and give him the Hail of Doom arrow, which is still in the book, and we'll talk about that in a sec.
Once he's fired that Hail of Doom arrow and helped pass a few rerolls, then he's basically paid for himself.
Yeah, and I give him the great weapon in the Glade Guard, because then you tell people, oh yeah, he's got a great weapon, and that's 3 strength 6 attacks, and so now they're not so sure about charging that.
Well, they're not charging that archer unit with chaff anymore.
Exactly, because first they have to weather the stand and shoot, and then he's going to chop them to bits with a great weapon.
Yeah.
So, yep, not bad all around with the Glade Captain. Okay, moving swiftly on, the Spell Singer. Now you can actually take a hero level wizard. No longer are we bound to the lore of Athaloran, but instead we get all 8 lores. So we've gone from being the weakest wizards in the game to being the most flexible, I think, with the combination of the Spellsinger and the Spellweaver. Spellsinger has the Blessings of the Ancients roll, so he's going to be casting as a level 3 if you take him as a level 2. That's pretty good going. He's 80 points base, and then, of course, 35 points for an extra level. Take him on a steed, an eagle, a unicorn, and 50 points of magic items. I think you're going to see a bunch more of these than you ever did before, obviously.
Sure.
I think these are really solid choices. So many good supporting lores.
There's so many good supporting lores, just nice backup lores.
Yeah, in fact, probably half a dozen of them are good as support for different types of builds.
Indeed.
I would take half a dozen of these. Half a dozen level 1s with picking your signature spell and have at it.
Just go.
Yeah.
Lore of Light.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You can build a light council now if you want to.
Although, it's overdone.
Is it? I've only ever faced it once. Can you believe that?
I haven't actually faced it that often, but you just hear about it.
You hear about it all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
Must be on the East Coast or something. I don't know. So a great amount of flexibility now, for sure. I don't think there's anything particularly stand out about them. Again, it's kind of bland, but it does the job, right?
Yeah.
And
in this case, you're not too bothered about having it bland. It does the job, the exact job you want something doing.
For fairly cheap.
Cheap, cheerful.
Yeah.
And you can give them a bow. Pew, pew.
Okay. My absolute favorite character from a fluff perspective is next, and it's something I will probably never take. The Shadow Dancer. So I gotta take a little bit of a tangent here, and everybody's looking at me going, God, it's so late. Please, no more tangents.
Do it. Just go for it.
On the Azrai.org forum, we created this thread about awards that achievements that you could do with the Wood Elf army. So the idea being, every one of these that you did, you could kind of check it off. And,
right.
And,
I've seen those before on other forums, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there were some of the ones that were the Shadow Dancer ones that were just hilarious. So
take one at all.
Defeat a unit of zombies with a Shadow Dancer. That achievement was called the Thriller achievement. and then put a Shadow Dancer in a unit of charge a Shadow Dancer out of a unit into another unit and kill that unit. And that was called the Safety Dance because he could leave his friends behind. Yes, there were a whole bunch along those lines. Awesome. Go check out that thread. There's about 80 or 90 in there by now. They're hilarious.
All around the Shadow Dancer.
Yeah. Well, not all around the Shadow Dancer. It's the whole army, wrong arrows. When you bring the Starfire arrows against order of our forces of order, etc. Anyway. So Shadow Dancer is the War Dancer hero. And so they went with the book the same way they did with the High Elf book, the Dark Elf book. They took out the custom builds that you could do of a basic hero
and
put in a special character for it with their own lore
Which
and
I prefer.
special rules. Yeah, and it's fine. I would prefer it if it was way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
The problem is they made him 100 points.
And the options are just weird. They're
Weird
bizarre,
indeed, yeah.
bizarre options.
So let's go through them real quick. He's 100 points, weapon skill 8, ballistic skill 6, strength 4, tough elf, 2 wounds and 3 attacks at initiative 8, leadership 8. So it's an interesting profile. It comes with 2 hand weapons, ASF, and Forest Stalker, just like every other elf, is immune to psychology, shadow dances of Loak, and talismanic tattoos, just like the war dancers.
Do all the same dances.
All the same dances. Yep. And if you're in a unit of war dancers, you got to do the same dance as what the unit is doing.
Otherwise, it just wouldn't look right. It would fill out the time.
That's right.
That one guy in the
They'd be like, what are you doing?
It'd be like me at
Which
the dance.
dance are we doing here?
We're doing this slide. So the other thing is that he can be upgraded to a level 1 Wizard of Shadow for 60 points.
That's bizarre. Like,
So
there's
expensive.
absolutely no precedent.
I can
for that.
take a level 1 Wizard for 80 points on the previous page, and what's going on?
It's not like if it was some spell that just had incredible synergy with the Shadow Dancer, then maybe. But, a level 1 Shadow, you're probably looking at bringing Miasma. I don't see how that synergizes incredibly well with what he does.
Not really. He's already weapon skill 8.
Exactly.
It's not like you can
there's
reduce
no
their
reason
toughness
to make
or
that
anything.
more expensive than a magic level normally is.
Yeah, don't get it. Here's some real shenanigans again with this guy, of course. He's got Blessings of the Ancients, which gives him +1 to cast. So once you make him a level 1 wizard, he can cast with a +2. But he can take magic items up to a total of 25 points. The ambiguity here is, can he take magic armor? So if he doesn't take the wizard level, can he take magic armor?
Sure. Doesn't say you can't.
Well, except anyone who you can only... If you're a wizard, you can't take magic armor.
But he's not a wizard unless he's been upgraded to a level 1 wizard.
Level 1, yeah. So,
I would assume.
I think this is a fairly straightforward one, but you still get, the dorks questioning. So, I don't think there's any magic item you can really give him. He can only take 25 points. And this is another weird thing that they
Potion
did.
of strength on him and have
Potion of Strength is about the only thing I can think of. Give him the Potion of Strength. And
all the other
Actually.
tricksters. Well, really, you want 2, one with the other tricksters and one with the Potion of Strength.
Yeah.
She's so expensive
Yeah,
too.
but then that's just absurd.
Yeah, and they're still not as good as Assassins.
So the thing that they are good for is you can't put them in a normal unit because they got rid of the only certain kindreds can join each other.
Yeah.
You can put one of these guys in a normal unit, be that Glade Guard or
Then that's going to look awkward too. He's just the
the-
one dude
the
dancing on the
Rangers.
side.
It could be whatever it is, and then he can do the dance to negate ranks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you could use him for that.
But he has to survive in order for that to work.
Yeah, he does have
That's
to
the
survive
big problem.
through the end
Yeah.
end of the combat.
Yeah. One interesting thing you could potentially do, and I have no idea how well this would work, you can give him the Shield of Tolos. It's 25 points. So he's got a 1-up armor save against shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if he's out on his own, at least he's not going to get shot off the board.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still so squishy. I mean, I want to love it, but I can't.
No.
So leave this one behind.
Yeah.
Do the safety dance.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Moving on, the Way Stalker. All right.
These guys are fun.
These guys are fun. Again, they're expensive. They're 90 points. They are ballistic skill 7, which is the only stat that really matters for these guys. They are effectively Way Watcher characters. They've got all the same rules as the Way Watcher, including the Hawk-Eyed Archer, and they can take magic items up to a total of 25 points. So the big downside here is the Hail of Doom arrow is 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
Take that.
The other special rule I
Yeah, I
forgot
was
to
waiting
mention.
for it. Sniper.
Yes, is the sniper.
Yeah.
The reason that it's downside that you can't take the Hail of Doom arrow is because wouldn't it be awesome to snipe with a Hail of Doom arrow?
I'm sure that's the reason why the Hail of Doom arrow is just outside of his...
Yeah, for sure.
That's why they bumped it up 5 points. And then...
I mean, you can take the Bow of Lauren, which is fine.
Which is, it's +1 to your attack, so then you're shooting twice with one of these guys.
It would be nice if he had 2 attacks, and then you could put the bow on him. Then he'd seem a pretty sweet choice.
So, again, a rules question around this one was, if you have the Bow of Lauren and the Hawk-Eyed Archer special rule, how many shots can you get? And can you get multiple shots with the no armor save? And so, after going through it all, cut a long story short, even rules as written, everything you look at, you'll get, if you've got the Bow of Lauren and you want to make your aimed shot, which is the negates armor saves, you'll get 2 shots with the Bow of Lauren.
Yeah, I wouldn't see why not,
shots,
because one is an item, one is a rule, so they don't conflict.
Yeah, but the item just grants the multiple shots special rule. And so, once you read through the different rules and piece it all together, and there's a good thread again on the Wood Elf forum, that one has pretty much been laid to bed. You get 2 shots, no armor saves. That's not bad.
No,
it's not bad, but again, it's still
skill 7.
It's still strength 3 shooting. So, where I found these guys useful, it takes a while to really chip away at any character's wounds, even the wizards. You kind of have to take multiples of these guys to really be effective at it. At which point, you're really eating into your points allowance. 90 points a pop, they're not cheap.
No.
But they can do some stuff that's just going to really help out at the end of a game or late game. If you can kill that wizard by turn 4, that's going to give you 2 turns of magic dominance, which can be huge. I think there's a place for these guys. Again, it's one of those things where you'd probably have to build your list.
Exactly. Yeah, in certain very, very specific lists, great. Regular normally. I would probably leave it home.
They do come into play with one very tricksy list later, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, Ricky's got trixies up his sleeve.
Branch Wraith. Let's talk about that one. This one's actually not so bad.
Branch Wraith. So the saving grace about the Branch Wraith, this is the Dryad hero. She's weapon skill 6, strength and tough 4, 2 wounds, 3 attacks, initiative 7. She's got hatred. Level 1 wizard, lore of life, and 75 points.
Really good.
Seems like, ends up looking like a bargain compared to the Shadow Dancer.
Yeah, this is the one that you take as your redirector versus the Glade Captain.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I think this is the only thing that makes Dryads at all possible is if you could take 3 or 4 of these in a unit of Dryads with a lore of beasts wizard and go for that savage beasts because all of a sudden these guys are going to be pumping out 6 strength 7 attacks each, and that's kind of one of those living the dream moments rather than anything that's really practical.
I think I'd rather just attach it to my Eternal Guard and give them regen. Make them an even better anvil.
Regen is pretty nice as a especially in this army. It doesn't have a ton of armor saves or wound saves or anything like that, so and it's a channeler, 75 points to get another channel dice. I think not bad. The problem is, if you think about all the heroes we just talked about, the one we think is probably the best value for points, obviously apart from the Glade Captain, this is this Branch Wraith, and she's got the crappiest regular unit in the whole army book, right? The Dryads, I think we can agree, is probably the least likely to see play, and she's supposed to be one of those, only better.
Right.
And now you don't have a good place to put her.
Yeah.
Right.
You just put her in some Elves.
because she goes on a 25 mil base, so she has to sidecar with whatever.
With Rangers or Eternal Guard, she's still, just poke off the edge.
Like I said, I think you could. I mean, she's 25 more points than an Eagle, and she's only moved 5. But I think on her own, running around, she's going to be able to do some stuff, and protect a flank. And she's going to take out Chaff. I mean, she's initiative 7, 3 attacks, with weapon skill 6, strength 4. I mean,
she's all right.
She can kill some stuff.
That's the thing, like, she's alright. I would see, there's nothing incentivizing me to take her.
No.
She can kill some chaff. Why don't I just put 5 more True Flight archers in the list?
Exactly.
They'll kill more chaff.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, that's for sure. I think, again, I'm very unlikely to ever take the Branch Wraith. I would maybe take one in a fun list or take a bunch in a fun list, but
well, yeah, and if you are one of those people who wants to do the theme list with all forest spirits, then of course you're going to
end up taking some.
You're going to have
sure.
at least one in every one of your dryads.
It's a bad time for you.
Yeah, that's true too. So one thing we didn't cover off was the forest dragon as a mount, and we just I've reached that part in the book where you can see the mounts there. I mean, it's a dragon with 6s all across its profile, pretty much. The breath weapon is this soporific breath, which is very similar to the previous breath weapon. It's only strength 2, armor saves are at -3, and if you're hit at all by it, you get stupidity for the remainder of the game. That's the new part. Indeed. That can be actually pretty. That can be okay.
It can be a plus and a minus because all of a sudden they're immune to psych. Too.
I would rather just have a strength 4 breath weapon.
Exactly.
Pretty much any day of the week.
Yeah.
On this
Or
thing.
strength 2, no armor saves, and screw the stupidity.
Yeah. Strength 2 with no armor saves.
Stupidity, like I said, it's great sometimes, but it's also a benefit because immune to psych, that can really mess with you sometimes, especially when you're trying to actually get stuff to run off the board.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So.
Okay, so let's cover the special heroes swiftly. There's only the 2. These guys both used to be lords in the previous book, and they've been downgraded to heroes, rightly so. So let's start with Dryka.
Yeah.
Dryka is a rage against the Azrai. She does not like the elves and so forth. Used to be in the old book, you could only take forest spirits, and she had to be your general if you took her at all.
Really?
Yeah.
The whole army had to be
forest spirits.
Nice.
Which happened a lot. So she got played pretty often.
So she's a level 2 Lore of Shadow. She causes fear, has hatred. The 2 really cool special rules she has. She has this Rouse to Wrath rule, which basically turns your forest spirits into ambushers that come from forests.
It's awesome.
So you used it against me the other day, Tom.
I did. And, we'll talk about lists later, but it's basically what this kind of sample list I wrote is built around. So I took 3 tree men, and then Dryka allows you to have... So you roll before the game, and then D3 units of forest spirits are allowed to wake up in a forest as if they're ambushing. So starting turn 1 rather than turn 2, you will roll for each of the ambushing units, and on a 3-up they can appear in any forest on the table. Which is fun.
I think it's
first
great.
off, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Second off, it can actually be really powerful to have 2 tree men just appearing
Yeah, it's
behind.
totally fluffy because all of a sudden the trees are coming alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Or a unit of treekin, again, not to be sniffed at.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that part.
Dryads.
So Dryka's profile before I go into the next role, she's weapon skill 7, strength and tough 4, 3 wounds and 4 attacks. 250,
Hero with 3 wounds.
Yeah, nice, huh?
255 points. And the reason I go into that now is because her other special rule is a Fanatical Resolve, which is a better version of what the same rule was in the previous book. Now, if she takes a wound, she gets +2 attacks. So basically, when she's on 2 wounds, she's got 6 attacks, and when she's on 1 wound, she's got 8 attacks.
Yep.
Which is not bad. I mean, she's still only strength 4, but 8 attacks is never to be sniffed at.
And it's just one of those nice things that softens the blow of your character taking wounds. You're like, all right.
Especially considering she's Lore of Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that chance she'll roll a Mind Razor and on Mind Razor herself and give 8 strength 9 attacks.
Yeah. And then if she's got some branch race with Core of Life, then they can keep healing her back up.
That's true. That's true.
So that you can kind of run that balance of let her take one wound and then maybe put a 10.
Yeah, the big difference now is that they ruled it that when she gets the wound back, the attack drops back down again.
Yeah, boo.
In the old book, it wasn't that way.
Well, we want a Minotaur.
10 attacks. Go.
Yeah. Okay, so Draika, again, I think you got to construct a list around her, but she's fun.
Totally.
Okay, and lastly, but by no means leastly, the girls who break Warhammer.
Yeah.
Still
And
do.
break the internet.
Yeah, Naestra and Arahan, the Sisters of Twilight. So I'm going to start off with a question. I'll have to paraphrase it. It was something along the lines of, if you go on a date with Naestra and then later you cheat on her with, you end up cheating on her with Arahan, does it really count as cheating? And I'm like,
no.
rules as written, I don't think you can date them by themselves.
Yeah, they're inseparable.
They always form the same unit. Yeah, I'm afraid it's threesomes or nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for that question, guys.
I'm taking Arahan.
There were a few others along
The naughty one.
the naughty one, the bad girl.
Dark side.
There was others along those lines, but let's go into these guys. So, no pun intended.
Yeah.
The Sisters of Twilight are kind of they typify this whole dark and light thing. They are twins where one is good and the other one's evil, and the evil one fights good things and the good one fights evil things. And they're the artwork on the front of the special edition book. I love the storyline behind them. In the previous book, they were like this little girl who wandered off and ended. She was called Naestrahan, and eventually she disappeared. And years later, came back these two twins. So they are kind of like the masters of beasts in the Wood Elf fluff. And so they always ride one of two mounts, either a dragon, forest dragon, called Keithanhar, or a great eagle called Gwendolor. So, why the big hullabaloo about these girls? So let's go into all the rules that are easy to understand. Mm-hmm. So these guys have they have a hero profile. It's just the same as the Glade Captain. And they come equipped with the Azrai Spear and the hand weapon, the light armor. They each have one magic item called the Talon of Dawn or the Talon of Dusk. So the Talon of Dawn is Naestra's weapon. It's strength 5, armor piercing, flaming attacks, multiple wounds, D6.
So good.
I know. I love it. And the icing on the cake, if it causes one or more unsaved wounds, Naestra's mount regains a single wound lost earlier in the battle. So as long as you wound with it, your mount's getting a wound back.
As long as you're on the eagle.
No,
as long as you're on the dragon, I mean.
As long as you're on the dragon.
As long as you're on the dragon.
Yeah. Well,
otherwise you're...
let's just hold off because it's going to get it's going to get complicated. Never date two girls at once. It only gets complicated. Okay, Talon of Dusk.
But even if it was just her on an eagle, that rule would be tough.
Yes, it would. So let's come back to it. The Talon of Dusk is Arahan's weapon. It is range 30 inches, strength 1, armor piercing, which is hilarious. Multiple shots, 2d6 poisoned attacks. So that is it's interesting. I mean, 2d6 multiple shots at ballistic skill 6. You're still going to get a reasonable amount in, but you need to roll 6s to do anything with it.
Yeah, you're looking for 6s.
So it's it could be okay. It's certainly not. It's no Talon of Dawn.
No,
let's put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely prefer Naestra's bow. So you get your shooting attacks. If you're flying on Gwendolor, you also have this Hunter's Mount special rule, which means they get to reroll all failed to hit rolls when shooting, which is kind of neat. So that gives you extra chances to roll
More
sixes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the dragon has an extra special rule, which is impetuous, which is effectively like as if he had a little bit like he had frenzy. He has to declare a charge unless he passes a leadership test. So that's the only special rule different for him than the other forest spirits. So now we'll go into Naistra and Arahan special rules. They're just like other elves, ASF, Forest Stalker. They've got the Sisters of Twilight special rule. So Naistra in close combat is +1 to wound against forces of destruction, and Arahan is +1 to wound against forces of order. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Against most things, you're going to be strength 4 +1 to wound, so nothing to be sniffed at. And then we come to the breaking part. Conjoined Destiny. So let me first talk about the intention behind this rule. The idea is that because they were like this original little girl and split into two, you can never separate them. And if one dies and the other one does not, that one comes back to life. They can't even be separated by death.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea is you have to kill them both in the same phase.
There's no such thing as killing one and not the other. They are one and the same.
Exactly. You have to kill them both instantaneously, effectively, for it to count.
Otherwise, you killed neither of them.
Otherwise, you've killed neither of them. And so the rule is that if at least one sister has at least one wound remaining at the end of the phase, both are restored to their starting number of wounds. Otherwise, you can remove them both as casualties. You don't take them off the board even if one is slain. You wait until the end of the phase before you remove anything. Should their mount be slain, they automatically form a unit. They can join other units, but they both have to be able to join it. Again, that's the whole fluff thing. You got to keep them together. They're one entity.
Right.
Where does this become complicated? Well, it's pretty straightforward on Keith and Har, on the dragon. Ridden monsters, there's special rules covering multiple riders on ridden monsters. Yep. You randomize, the mount dies. That Talon of Dawn special rule, very easy to understand.
Cannonball hits the mount and every rider.
Every rider, yep.
Every part of the model.
So stupid, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
When they get onto Gwendolor, that's when it becomes problematic. So Gwendolor's a monstrous beast, so they become monstrous cav, according to the rules. Monstrous cav, you use the wounds and toughness of the beast and the profile of the characters. They fight independently, right? So the problem then is, how do you account for what are the wounds and toughness of Naistra and Arahan when they're riding on Gwendolor, and how does the conjoined destiny work? And there's probably several other questions that we can cover as we go into this. So Tom, I know you had an opinion on this. We were talking about it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it seems, this is a really tricky set of rules because you have two characters who are essentially one monstrous cavalry unit, one monstrous cavalry model. And we don't have that set of rules in play like we do for multiple riders on an actual monster. So my way of thinking about it is the simplest way to think of them is as a unit of two different monstrous cavalry models that just occupy the same physical space on the field. So if a cannon hits it, you're going to count as hitting those two monstrous cavalry models. You allocate attacks between the two models, but they both count as being a monstrous cavalry, so each one is going to benefit from the 3 wounds and the toughness 4. Yep. Which is obviously one of the things that ends up making them pretty broken, is that then you suddenly have 2 elves who have 3 wounds each, and you've got to take off the 3 wounds from each of them before removing it from play.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It becomes very powerful if you treat it
it that way.
That's the way I would treat it.
I'm trying to work out whether that way of thinking about it leads to any other problems. And the only one I can think of is as to whether they end up getting Lookout Sir for example, if they're with or near a group of Warhawk riders, would they end up getting a lookout, sir? Because I'm trying to think of them as a unit of 2 monstrous cavalry now.
Yep.
And you only get that lookout, sir, from being near a unit if you're a single character on your own.
Well, but it does say if you're a single model.
Oh, it says if you're a
for,
single model.
For lookouts, sir, yeah. So it becomes confusing. And do they both get the lookouts, or does one of them?
Do they have to take it separately?
Or do neither get one?
Yeah.
And the other part of it that's confusing is if you are if you think about why you get the strength and you get the toughness and wounds of the monstrous mount. It's because it's supposed to represent the fact that really the beating is going on the mount,
right? Which is only one mount.
One mount, and so should you then be saying that when they're on the eagle, they only have 3 wounds, and you don't get to use that conjoined destiny?
But then that's the part. Then that's again like bringing
that's
fluff
a complete
into,
nerf at
bringing
that point.
fluff into rules, which we can't really do.
Yeah, and so if you start to think about it like this, what if Nestra was not on the eagle? What would Arahan's toughness and wounds be? Arahan on the eagle would be tough 4 with 3 wounds, right? And vice versa. So why wouldn't they both be
exactly
toughness 4 with 3 wounds? However, I feel like the easiest way to resolve the whole thing is just to say, well, Gwyndolor is just a particularly monstrous great eagle and is a monster, right? You take away all of the confusion.
Yeah.
You have a neat set of rules. You now get a Thunderstomp, albeit only a strength 4, but it's still a Thunderstomp at 275 points. I don't like that.
No.
But I certainly feel like it's probably the easiest way to resolve it.
But that's not something that we as players can just decide upon.
No.
That's something that would require an official errata.
Or a tournament ruling or whatever else. In fact, every tournament...
Even for a tournament ruling, I think that would be a bit extreme because it seems
that's how
to be
the US
fundamentally
Masters did
changing.
it.
Really?
Yeah, last year. That was in the US Masters.
It seems to be kind of fundamentally changing something rather than just clarifying a rule.
Yeah, and I think that the right way to play them is tough 4, 3 wounds each, and they should be really hard to kill.
Yeah, they're supposed to be hard to kill. That's the point.
They're not. I mean, it's not like there's a crazy effective combat unit. They're certainly still less broken than a Demon Prince of Nurgle with a 1-up armor save and the Charm Shield and all that crap that
and really one good organ gunshot would still kill them.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Even with tough 4, 6 wounds.
Anything that does multiple wounds is going to wreck them. For sure.
So I don't see why it's such a big deal and people make art. So
then when it takes a bunch of hits like that, you allocate them.
Yeah.
One, like, you split them evenly between the two.
You randomize them
essentially.
Shooting.
I think you would probably... you would allocate them because they're not...
It's not like a character in
It's not like
unit.
a character. You would allocate so that you'd be doing an even number of hits.
So
and
again,
then you just pick.
it's like thinking them of it as a unit of 2.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and at that point, they're pretty easy to shoot down.
I think so. I mean, they're not hard to kill with regular shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're hard to kill in combat against infantry or against other things. I think I think they are a really interesting model when you have them with 3 wounds and 4 tough. They're a fun choice to include.
And it makes them resilient against the cannonball.
Yeah.
I crunched the math today and it comes out about a 30% chance of killing them with a direct hit from a cannonball.
Yeah.
Because you have to roll a 2-up to wound each of them and then roll a 3-up on the number of wounds to each of them.
Yeah, and I think the question about the lookout, sir, the way that I would play it is it's a single model. You treat it as a single model. You get 1 lookout, sir.
1 lookout, sir.
So either they're both saved from the cannonball, or neither of them are saved from the cannonball.
Kind of goes with the fluff.
It goes with the fluff. Yeah, they're basically, you treat them as if they're a single individual, except they're not, right? And then. Once the mount is dead, if you're on the dragon, there was some discussion about, how as a unit, you can put them, you can stack them one rank wide and 2 deep, and then
Does it specifically say they can never leave each other? Like if they did fall off the dragon, can you then split them up?
let's see. It says
Like, I'm going over here. I'm going over here. Kill us both now.
no. It says should their mount be slain, the sisters automatically form a unit. So
So then you can split them up.
well, I don't think you can. It doesn't say you can't.
And then just hide one of them in a building or something where they can never be killed and
huge
fling
unit.
the other one into combat.
Which I think was one of the kind of shenanigan type questions that was being asked.
I mean, they're not combat characters, though.
No, but if
you
you
can't
hide
kill
one
it.
in a building
Yeah.
and you send the other one into combat, then
Yeah,
it
it
doesn't
cannot
never
die.
kill it.
Yeah.
I love it. Do it.
I would call shenanigans on that one.
I wouldn't, because that's exactly what the fluff is saying those two can
Leave
do.
the dragon in the middle of the table, like, here, shoot my dragon. And be like, awesome, you unleashed the beast.
Oh, you guys.
I would totally let somebody do that to me.
Anyway, I want to go into how Maestra's bow works when they're monstrous cav.
Yeah.
So you're restoring wounds to the mount, which is essentially the same as the number of wounds that the character has when they're a monstrous cav.
Well, it doesn't matter because they regain all their wounds at the end of the phase. So you're not going to have any wounds in your own phase.
Unless you're on the dragon.
Yeah,
right.
so
You're right.
it doesn't make any difference. And there are some of the people saying that the tough 4 3 wounds for the whole model, this is you only get total of 3 wounds.
Yes.
That the bow points to that, so that you chip off a wound off of the eagle, and then you can heal back with the bow. I don't think. I think the right way to play it is, and this is my interpretation. Is this is me taking the rules as intended rather than being able to split hairs about everything. You don't separate them ever, right? It doesn't make any sense. In the previous book, you certainly couldn't. I feel like it's an oversight that they say they don't say that anymore. I mean, the whole point is if one twin can't join the unit, the other twin, you can't join the unit at all if both can't join. So you can't split them apart. They're both tough 4 3 wounds on the back of that beast, and just kind of interpret them as if they're one person that happens to occupy the space of 2 infantry models, and then you'll get everything kind of pretty much right.
Right. But I mean, it's unlikely that they're going to be going around on their own much anyway.
No, not really.
I mean, firstly, because people are not really going to take them on the dragon when the eagle is super awesome.
The eagle is awesome, and when you start combining it with the Warhawk Riders for a lookout, sir, it becomes even more survivable. And we'll get to that when we get to the lists. Anyway, that was as much as I want to talk about those girls. I really like them. I want to play with them. Thankfully, most of my tournaments are organized by Ricky, so I get to play with them as tough 4 and 3 wins each. But you're going to,
I may well do this weekend.
you're going to have to check with
And then split them up in.
Ricky said it was alright if I just split these into 2 eagles, one in the building.
Hey, eagles can land in buildings. There you go.
What about the
They
eagle
can't get
horde? The 18 eagle horde with these guys in the front?
They can't join a unit of flyers.
Oh,
No, they got to fix that in 9th.
Yeah, so you need to check with your tournament organizer or your opponent if you're playing a friendly game just exactly what the ruling on these guys is before you get started, because otherwise you're going to cause a fist fight, or at the very least some 4-up rolling.
But you have to roll a twice.
Or it resets at the end of phase.
Exactly.
All right, that is every unit in the book. We are going to talk a little bit about the magic items, and then we'll wrap it up with lists and strategies and all of that fun. Okay, so magic items. Or how is it that they put it in this? The heirlooms of Athelloren. Okay, so I think I've lost my heirlooms. Oh, there they are.
Spirit sword.
The Spirit Sword. So,
Boo.
this thing used to be in the previous book. It was 55 points. Now it's 85. And it effectively causes a Spirit Leech whenever you attack with it. So it's a magic weapon. You don't get any armor saves. And if you're a character, a champion, or a monster that takes a wound, both the wielder and the woundee roll 2d6 and add their leadership. And if the wounded model total is lower, it takes a wound for each point that was different with no armor saves. So it's basically no armor saves and a Spirit Leech.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 85 points. So it's Lord only. He's not going to get any protection if he's wielding
Just
it.
enough to slip in the other Trickster's Shard.
Just enough, yes, exactly.
I think it's pretty solid.
I
It's fun.
think it's terrible. I mean, I love the idea of it, but it's like, okay.
If
now-
it gave like a little strength bonus as well, even just +1 strength, then maybe. But
exactly.
you've got to do that wound. You've got to do the wounds in the first place.
You're only strength 4. So
And the thing where the leadership deal would work out really nicely is against like monsters who tend to have crappy leadership, but they're going to be too tough to really hurt with your little
Exactly.
strength 4 swords. So.
Exactly. So it's
Dark magic.
yeah.
+1 strength.
So you can get strength buffs and you can get toughness debuffs, but I'm like 85 points, so I got to run this guy. I'm running a 145 point Lord character with 85 points, probably another 100 points of magic items on him. That's
And
245.
some kind of mount as well.
Yeah, probably. So I'm bringing him up. I'm just shy of 300 points for something that's only strength 4. I think
No save.
strength 4 with no save. I mean, give him the giant blade. It'd be strength 7. I mean, you're going to open more cans with that than
Right.
you are with this thing. I don't know.
I still think it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
But it's something
I'm
that
just thinking
60
about how
points,
every one of
maybe?
my goblins would die from this thing. That's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
You just look at him with that sword in your hand and they'd be like,
Yep. Okay. Daith's Reaper. So this is one that retained from the previous book.
Mhm.
Daith is the Elven Master Smith, and this is basically the best weapon he ever made. So you reroll all failed to hit and to wound, and any armor saves taken against it must also be rerolled. 50 points.
Successful armor saves.
Yes, successful armor saves. You're right. Again, I love the fluff. I like the idea, but you're putting it in the hands of an elf, so it's always only going to be strength 4.
Yeah, but this one's more affordable, so I think it's a better deal.
Yeah, you can
50
lump it
points.
with a potion of strength, I guess.
Yeah, if you put it on a lord, you could, because at 50 points.
But then you don't really need the reroll to wound thing, so you're
yeah,
kind of paying for something you don't.
yeah, and also you get to reroll ones to wound in a forest.
Yeah.
Not that that's going to happen that often, but I don't know. I feel like 50 points. It's tempting on a hero character, and I'm like, but he's going to be pretty much naked apart from
Sure,
that.
if they had made combat characters more viable in
Yeah.
general by giving them easier ways to kind of build saves onto them, then maybe, but
Yeah, or I would
It's
love
just-
to have this on a Shadow Dancer, but it's just too expensive, you know? Because at that point, I'm like, okay, Strength 4 Shadow Dancer, he's doing a funky dance, and he's going to be making everybody re-roll everything. That would be pretty sweet. But no. So...
Those are the 2 combat swords.
those are the 2 combat swords. That's all there is. I was
kind of boo.
a bit
I think they're cool,
meh.
but they're boo.
I think they're cool, but you'll never see them. And
No.
not in a super competitive situation.
But is it like every book seems to have its kind of, greater than 50 point magic sword that you generally just never see
Well,
in competitive games?
I'll contrast it with the Lizardman book. They've got the Blade of Realities, which you can't take any saves against whatsoever.
So good.
And they can have Strength 5.
How many points?
That's
Yeah.
100 points.
That's 100.
And then they have...
Put
And
that on an old.
the really good one they have, though, is the Piranha Blade. which is D3 wounds, armor piercing. But again, they've got the strength 5 to back it up, right?
Sure.
And you don't get that here. If you want more than strength 4, you're onto characters that can't take magic items. So, really, really, what they needed was either a strength boost or a multiple wounds weapon. They didn't get either. Oh well. This is why you'll see so many Wood Elf gun lines, I guess.
Yeah.
The Bow of Lauren, speaking of gun lines, we mentioned it earlier. This was in the previous book. It's had a bit of a rules change. It's 20 points now. It's basically an Azrai bow that grants the multiple shots attacks +1 special rule.
So this is the one where you see them putting six arrows on the string and shooting them all at once.
Yeah, yeah. The downside, it can't fire enchanted arrows.
No.
Yeah, but I mean...
Well, it would have been real nice to be pew-pewing off those, starfire arrows or whatever you needed in order to
I would take the
pump
bodkins
regen.
on this
That
guy.
would have been
the
real
bodkins,
nice.
yeah. Or, yeah. Well, that was the old combo, right? Was the Bow of Lauren and the Arcane Bodkins.
Oh, yeah, so
yeah,
good.
yeah.
I mean, it ends up looking pretty tailor-made for the Waystalker, if only he had another attack.
If only you could give him more attacks with a spell.
Savage Beast.
Savage Beast. He'd have 5 attacks with no armor save, 5 shots with no armor
That
save.
would be nice.
It's like turning him into his own unit of Way Watchers.
Well, just take
With
a whole
sniper.
unit. Take
Sniper.
like 3.
Yeah.
Oh, no, because only one of them can have
Yeah,
a bow.
that'd be pretty
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, 3 of them can have
Well,
a
it's,
bow. That'd be
it's only 20
ridiculous.
points, so I think this thing's definitely
Yeah.
going to be in a lot of lists.
It's a
Yeah.
good one.
It's certainly not an auto-include,
No.
but because, I mean, it's still just only armor piercing strength 3, but it's still good.
But you got 20 points left over in a magic weapon slot. You might throw it in there
Just
for
throw it in
something.
there.
Yeah, exactly. Helm of the Hunt, again, in fact, this is a direct translation from the previous book. Nothing changed with this one.
Yeah, it did, because it was +1 strength, wasn't it, on the chart?
Nope. Is 20 points, magic armor, +1 armor save, devastating charge, special rule, and +1 weapon skill on the turn you charge. So the whole idea behind this one was it kind of turned you into a Wild Rider a little bit, and that's still what it does now.
I like it. I think it's a solid item.
It's not bad at all. I think at 20 points, it's a wee bit expensive.
Maybe.
But
one of those few ways to get up to a 3-up armor save, plus...
turns your hero into a lord
Yeah.
in the first turn anyway,
Yeah.
right? He's weapon skill 7, 4 attacks, which is not bad for 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Acorns of the Ages. So this used to be a magic item in the previous book, like the previous book, but you used to be able to throw it. And so it was like this thing that you could throw and it would scatter.
A grenade!
It's like a forest grenade. And it was a great way for taking out steam tanks. It's like, oh, there's a steam tank. I'll just go throw a forest around it. Now you can't move. But you can't do that anymore. The Acorns of the Ages, the way this works is at the start of the deployment phase, before sides have been determined, you put down D3 forests, or D3 Citadel Woods, as they say. By the way, if anybody wants to get a Citadel Woods template, we've got one on our website. You can download it. It's just a PDF you can print out. Anyway, so they got to be placed 1 inch away from each other. Then they scatter 2d6 inches, or at least 1 inch away from each other and 1 inch away from other terrain. So effectively, what it does is allows you to plop down 3 extra forests up to 3 extra forests. It's D3. It's random. And you choose which type you want it to be from the mysterious forest types. It's 100 points. So you got to take it on a lord, and the lord's going to be naked otherwise.
Well, you could take it on that. Oh, yeah, I guess a Spellweaver, right?
You can take it on a Spellweaver, but then,
Then
you're
it's a super expensive Spellweaver.
super expensive Spellweaver.
You could do it all blood for us, and then just wait for them to come through there and tinkle your fingers at them, right?
Well, the problem is that they scatter 2d6 inches, which is, quite a bit.
Well, all you got to do, they scatter until they hit something, so you place the one in the middle where you want it to be. You scatter that one first. It's not going to be able to move unless you roll directly
No, you scatter them once you've placed them all. Then you scatter them.
You place them all, then you scatter each one.
You
right?
place all three and then scatter. Yeah.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, sorry.
So you place all three, scatter the first one in the middle. The one in the middle is where you want it to be. The others, they might not move that much.
Okay, I see what
You
you're
see what I'm
saying.
saying?
Yep.
Because this one, unless you roll directly this way or that way,
Yeah.
isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So there's ways to play with that, but then again, that depends on if you get 3 forests.
Yep.
You might only get one.
You might only get one, and it's a 100-point magic item that may only give you one forest.
I would say spend 100 points and take the tower and
Take a Fuzzer's Folding
Yep.
Fortress instead.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's a better value.
I mean, this seemed to be like when this book first came out, this was kind of a gimmick that everybody jumped on and was
Yeah.
like, ooh, this could be the coolest thing in the book.
Yeah.
But it seems to have been popping up less frequently in lists
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah. And the combo was with the next item, which is the Moonstone of the Hidden Ways.
Mhm.
So let's go on to that, and then we'll talk about the combo and see what thing. So it's 40 points. It's gone up a little bit. It used to be 30, but now it's not one use only anymore. It used to be just the once. And this basically allows you to teleport. Take your unit, as long as you're entirely within a forest, you can, at the end of your movement phase, teleport to another forest, or forest walk, as they say. As long as you're not within 1 inch of an enemy unit or impassable terrain, and you're wholly within the forest, boom, you've teleported. So, great way to avoid combat.
Mm-hmm.
Great way to, kind of get into backfield. But you need forests.
Right.
So this is the combo: 140 points, Acorns of the Ages, Moonstone of the Hidden Ways.
Sure.
What do you think?
So who's a good character to take the Moonstone with? It's got to be somebody who's going to be with a unit that you want to get into the backfield, kind of behind
Your
your
BSB.
enemy. So
Yeah,
maybe
So
BSB
you would have
with
the Acorn of Ages on your
on your
caster.
wizard, probably. Yeah.
Your BSB has that, and
With
then
who?
the BS, and then they're in a bunker unit.
Oh, okay.
Um,
But what unit do you specifically want to get back there, or what unit?
I would probably just do it as Glade Guard.
Okay.
It's going to be something you're not going to fight because neither one of these guys are going to be able to survive anything.
Right.
I mean, once you spend that much points on those two items,
But then you just teleported your BSB away from the kind of main bulk of the army where you want them.
have you? You don't know. I mean, you could be putting them in a better position. You don't know where they're going to go.
True.
So it could be a BSB, it could just be a Glade Captain, but,
I've seen it taken on, so in a mounted unit, either like the Sisters or the Wild Riders, and you put it on a hero level spellcaster.
Okay.
So you teleport, and then you're much closer range for casting, whatever it is you want to cast. Maybe
Fireball.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, I've taken it. I took it against you in our first few games, practice games that we had. I think that, if you're in a meta that does not have a decent spread of terrain, where you can't reasonably expect to have any forests on the table at all, and you want to play with some of the, like maybe you want to take Dryka, and you're taking a forest spirit list, maybe then you need to have this item. Or you're taking, a super themed list or something. In general, I'm going to leave this at home. 140 points. I can get a unit of Warhawk Riders for that, and I'd much rather have them.
Yeah, maybe I just don't have like the imagination needed, but like kind of gimmicky things like this, I always end up looking at the more reliable stuff I can get for the same amount of points, and it ends up looking more attractive to me.
Well, the worst part is what happens in that situation where you roll one forest. So now you've got your one that you get by default.
And this is before you roll for deployment.
Before you do deployment. And then, so 1 in every 3 games, you're going to place, you're only going to get one forest on average.
Plus your normal forest.
Plus your normal forest. So you place that one, you put it somewhere that you think is reasonably good no matter which side of the table you get. And then it scatters 2d6 inches, and it goes, let's say it goes 10 inches in a direction you didn't want. So now you have a very obvious choice for your opponent, and well, that's 100 points wasted, right?
Well, more than 100 points because you have to have a caddy for it.
You have to have the caddy for it, and you haven't wasted the points on the caddy, and obviously you've got your moonstone as well, and it's so easily blocked, right? You put a unit inside if there's only 2 forests on the table, all your opponent has to do is put a unit inside one of the forests, and no longer you're able to teleport because you have to be 1 inch away and wholly within the forest. So if your unit has any kind of footprint whatsoever, it's pretty easy to block this thing.
Tree man. Stop a tree man.
Well, except he
can't be in the unit with something.
Yeah, the moonstone is
moonstone.
Darn it!
Again. So I see it as like a really fun gimmick that don't want to sound like we're trying to put people off playing around with these fun things because
go for it. It is fun.
But, from a purely competitive level, I don't know.
I don't see it.
But I think, like you said, if you're stuck in an environment where you're not getting enough trees on the board and you want more trees, it might be worth taking. Yeah, I still feel like I'd rather put the 100 points into the folding fortress and throw a bunker in there. And just,
that's because you're a cheese.
Yeah, and then put my forest right in front of that. And then
for me, the acorns, like given that you've placed them before you know where you're playing, it seems like just a line of forests directly across the middle of the table is what you would do with it. To kind of, if you're planning on having a very shooty kind of gun-liney army, have forests that they have to advance through while pouring true flight into there.
And Curse of Anra here.
Yeah, right.
So that they have to take dangerous terrain tests. One for the open terrain, another one for the forest, and then another one for the open terrain on the other side again. I mean, there's definitely ways that you can do it, and you can build a list around it.
Right.
And that's one nice thing about this army book is it really lends itself to building interesting themed lists, and doesn't lend itself terribly well to all-comers lists.
Right.
And we're getting so close to talking about lists. I know, kind of teasing things.
Hail
of Doom Arrow.
All right. Very good. Always burn.
Yes, pretty much.
Every list should have it.
It's changed a little. It's now straight up multiple shots, 3d6. It's strength 4 armor piercing, which is way better than it used to be because it just used to be regular strength 4. So yeah, it's a little better in some areas, a little worse in others. It's still 30 points. Put it on your BSB, and you won't go too far wrong.
Stand and shoot.
Stand and shoot is always fun. Kalangor's Stave. This is kind of the name of the item was in before, but it's changed a little. Now it allows you to cast a tree singing spell, which lets you move forests around. Or if there's a unit in there, you can do 2d6 strength 4 hits against that unit. But you got to lose one of the spells that from your regular lore. So 20 points, taking up an arcane item slot to lose a spell to get this ability to move trees around. Again, it's kind of gimmicky and story-like. And you're never going to see it. And speaking of things you're never going to see, here's 2 banners.
I think the banner, the Eternal Queen, I was playing with getting that in some of my lists because I think it is actually okay. But at 100 points, it's too spendy for what you get.
Well, so it gives you MR3, and once a game, you get everything in the unit is unbreakable. The problem is that it explicitly says that you're unbreakable until the end of turn or until the bearer is slain, whichever comes first.
Which always is going to happen.
Which is what's always going to happen.
Right.
Because it's BSB only at 100 points.
And his 2 wounds with a shield.
4 up armor maximum because you can't put any magic goodies on him.
Absolutely maximum 4 up armor. So yeah, it's just that's the part that's not going to work.
Yeah. Unleashing that unbreakable rule is like, okay, kill my BSB now. Go ahead.
No, you make that magic resistance 2 and a 50-point banner. And yes, put it on Wild Riders or something like that, something where one of the units in the army could take it. And speaking of banners that won't be taken, so that was Ariel's banner. Here's Orion's banner, the banner of the Hunter King. So you get the Vanguard special rule, and you get to re-roll your first failed charge of the game. I mean, that's a really good set of rules. I like that, but it's 75 points, so it has to be BSB only. And the only thing you ever want to re-roll its first charge of the game is Wild Riders, which already have the Vanguard special roll. I mean, maybe if you're taking a Great Stag in a unit of Wild Riders, and so you don't lose your Vanguard, but at that point you've got a naked BSB on a Great Stag.
Sure, and you can already get the banner that lets you re-roll all failed charge distances.
For 55 points. Yeah,
so.
which is actually better.
Yeah.
You know, and you can just be on an Elven Steed and have you retain your Vanguard.
So it kind of fell flat on
the banners.
Yeah.
The banners are poo.
Just the items in general.
The items in general are poo.
Yeah.
You got the
got the bow and the arrow and a bit the helm.
And that's
otherwise.
about it. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, so those are the ones you're going to see. If you're fighting against Wood Elves, you're pretty much always going to see the Hail of Doom Arrow. But if you fought against Wood Elves at all in the past, you have always seen the Hail of Doom Arrow, so nothing new there.
It's like the Doom Rocket. It's always going to be there,
Yep.
so we hope.
Okay, so that was magic items. That was all the army list units. That's the army book review. Let's go into talking about army lists, archetypes, how to win with it, cool strategies, all of that fun shenanigans. Okay, so we're going to talk through, we each kind of curated a list here, and then we're going to talk about maybe some of the archetypes that these lists represent and other archetypes that'll be fun to build. And then we'll talk about what we expect to see most often and then how to beat them. And interspersed with all of that, we'll talk about maybe magic lore choices, because I think that really affects kind of the build that you're going to make, because very much with this army, your synergies are very important, and one of the big synergies is your magic lore choice. So Ricky, why don't you kick us off, our King of Infantry?
Yeah, so I do love the infantry. I didn't go with any cav. I do have 2 eagles, though, so I guess technically it's not all infantry, but I am a big fan of the Eternal Guard. So I went with a big block of 35 Eternal Guard with full command. Then I also have, the way I saw this would be two teams, kind of. One's going to be a team with the Eternal Guard combat block, 2 blocks of 10 Glade Guard, one with Hagbane, which is the poison, and one with True Fire, or True Flight, which is the, no penalties for shooting. And so that's one team. The combat goes behind, True Flight goes in front of that, poison goes in front of that. Hopefully I shoot, soften stuff up, and then flee back through the combats and then countercharge with the combat. So I had 2 teams that were set up to do that. Okay. So the other team was Wildwood Rangers, because I just love everything about them. I do think that maybe I would want to do something to give them stubborn. I didn't really build out the characters in this list, so maybe doing a Crown of Command into this unit somehow might actually be a smart thing to do. But 35 Wildwood Rangers with the Banner of Eternal Flame, these guys are going to be monster killers. They're going to try and take down the big uglies or anything that causes fear, stuff like that. I'll try and use them for that. Again, they have the team of the True Flight and the Hagbane. And then to go with each one of those teams, each team gets a unit of 6 scouts that have... One has Starfire, one has Moonfire. I kind of felt like this was a allscomers list, so why not have one of both? I know that you're pretty much only going to need... Which one is it, Starfire?
Probably. I don't think you need any when you've got 35 Wildwood Rangers with the Banner of Eternal Flame.
Well,
it's like, hit that A-bomb, do it!
I want to soften it up before it gets there anyways.
Oh no, you're going to kill that thing in one turn.
So I have those two units of scouts. It's only 12 shots with flaming, but that does do something. Then I have 2 small units of Way Watchers, 2 of 6, So that gives me some armor, pen, and some just more shooting if I need it, and then 2 eagles. I paired this with a Spellweaver, level 4 with Shadow. I figured with the 2 combat blocks and the shooting, Shadow, because Shadow can take down toughness, correct?
Yep.
Yep, that's what I was looking for. And then also, hopefully, I thought that paired well with my kind of mixed arms list here.
Yep.
And then I had just a Glade Captain as the battle standard, and another one that was the General. I didn't bother with a Glade Lord. So I'm still Leadership 9 as my highest leadership. Maybe the Eternal Guard should have this Standard of Discipline and put the Glade Captain in there, so I'd have 10. But like I said, I didn't really put a lot of thought into the characters. Right now I'm sitting at 2458, so there's about 40 points to play with. I could probably try and do some of those other level tailoring things. I
think it's a pretty fun list as far as infantry goes. I like the idea of having the arrows out in front and the double flee through the
I like that
through the big blocks, because they're not going to panic. With leadership 10, especially if you can get the stubborn and
Wildwood Rangers are immune to panic.
They're immune to panic, and the Eternal Guard will have the BSB in there with a reroll, so they'll be fine. The only thing that I would change is I would probably just drop the fire arrows on the scouts to free up some points for whatever you need in your characters, or tweak them a little, because I don't know. I think you don't need that much firepower. Can I say that?
Well, you're probably right. And maybe I just put the fire arrows on the battle standard.
Yeah.
Just the Glade Captain and the battle standard both have a flaming arrow, and they'll just take a pop shot
and try and spill a regen. Yeah.
And then, originally I had intended the Deep Wood Scouts to be cheap redirectors, but right now 6 of them with the bows or with the flaming arrows is 102 points. That's pretty expensive. So if I dropped off those and maybe even just took them down to 5 models, then they can be
quite cheap.
Cheap redirectors if I need them. So.
Yeah, they go down to 65 points at that point.
So.
Here is an interesting thing I just thought of, inspired by that list, because you're saying you take a Glade Captain, you're going to put probably 1 captain in each of those blocks.
Yeah.
If you have the Banner of Eternal Flame on the block, and you take the Bow of Lauren, your shots are going to be flaming.
4 shots. No, because it's a magic item. Flaming doesn't transfer onto magical.
I think that banner. Hold on, I could be wrong, but I think that banner specifically says only your magic or your combat attacks.
No,
the banner is not only combat attacks, but it's
flaming attacks.
Under the rules for flaming attacks, it says they don't transfer onto magical attacks.
Right, they're not magical, but they are. Oh,
the Bow of Lauren would be magical.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it wouldn't transfer onto the Bow of Lauren.
The bow. Yeah, I guess it is a magical.
It's a
weapon.
magic item.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not firing the enchanted arrows, but it still must be magical attacks.
Yeah, that's too bad, because it does say it's just a normal. It's one of the bows. So it gives you the -1. Yeah. So, anyways, that's just noodling at that point. But
yeah, that's cool.
I thought that would be
fun.
I thought it would look good on the table too. Having you get to have some bows, you get to have the big, Klingon weapons. You get to have the Eternal Guard with their spears. You kind of get it all. And I just think it would look good on the table. It's it doesn't have a lot of mobility. So you are going to end up taking those charges. You do need those eagles and those scouts to try and
redirect things
and time that to where you want them to happen. But
it's a wood elf battle line, right?
Yeah.
That's which is not something you commonly see.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of it, because if you read any of the books, that they definitely have that happen. They get in the big open glades and they're defending their cities and what have you, and they've got big ranks of troops and what have you.
And we were asked about whether combat lists could be viable for Wood Elves, right? And that's kind of a combat combined with shooting support.
Yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
list.
That's an infantry list. I think for sure, Lore of Shadows are a great one to go with this. Because you mind razor either of those units, and it's adios muchachos. I think the dropping of the toughness is also going to be great for it. It's a great support lore for pretty much for elves in general. So yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Tom, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I'm going to just go through the exact list that I played with against Aiden the other week. This was kind of my take again on a kind of more combat-oriented Wood Elf army than we used to see, and also my attempt to kind of try and revitalize the Tree Man, who I see as like an iconic Wood Elf thing, and I was kind of disappointed. Yeah, I know, I was kind of disappointed that they got a bit of a nerf and won't be seen so much. But we did hint at the fact that Tree Men could be successful if they were kind of spammed. So this is the tree spam list.
Nice.
So my general is just that level 4 Tree Man Ancient.
And wait, is this a 25 or is
this is my 2500
okay.
list, and I'll talk about at the end how I could potentially bump this up to 3,000 point list to use in tournament upcoming.
All right.
So yeah, that's my general level 4 Ancient Life. Like we said, Life is a great lore for when you have a lot of trees on the table,
For sure.
and also Dwellers, which, yeah, enough said, Dwellers.
Yep. Possibly the most devastating spell in the game.
And also something to just help me work against big hordes, which there's not really much in this list to work against. So then in Heroes, I have Dryka, that special character we mentioned who allows D3 tree men to ambush. So that's kind of the mechanic around which this list is built. So I'll go into the tactics a little bit at the end. And then my last character, I put a Glade Captain BSB, flying round on an eagle with a Potion of Strength, Helm of the Hunt, and a Dragonbane gem, shield, Azrae's Spear. So normally a little bit risky to just put the BSB out there on an eagle flying around where he can be hit with a cannon, but it's target saturation. I have a bunch of other really good targets in this list, so
But yeah, if
if you want to concentrate all your cannons on my BSB, go for it.
as long as you get the first turn, he should be fine. If they go first and he's the only thing on the table before those other things get to ambush, then
that's true for sure.
Yeah,
I-
they'll be
I-
like,
I
well, let's
mentioned,
shoot that guy
yeah.
since I got nothing else to shoot. But
But this guy on the charge, because of his hat, he has 4 attacks that when he drinks the Potion of Strength, they're going to be at Strength 8. So I'm also quite happy just pinging him into a little unit of, like a small
Strength
unit
8
of knights.
armor piercing.
Strength 8 armor piercing. So he's going to just ping into a unit of 5 knights or even some demigryphs or something, and maybe do enough damage to get them to run.
With always strikes first, so you
Yeah.
might get the rerolls. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. Serious output there.
So those are my 3 characters. Then in core, I go for a unit of 21 Eternal Guard, medium-sized unit, kind of a nice size for that unit, I think. 3 ranks of 7, so you're getting the 21 attacks. Connectors, a little bit of an anvil, especially the fact that they're stubborn. You know, you're not going to want to put them in against super high damage output stuff, but against a lot of units, they'll act as a nice little anvil while you try and arrange the tree men around them and stuff. And then just 2 units of 12 Glade Guard on True Flight arrows. And their job is to just get rid of chaff, because when combat happens, I want it to be on my terms, and I don't want redirect to chaff getting in the way. In special, I've just got 2 units of 6 Wild Riders. Awesome. Glass cannon, massive damage output. One of those units I put the Banner of Eternal Flame on, because I just want something that can deal with regen, and that actually came in pretty handy against the Skaven
A-bomb.
that I played against the A-bomb in the game I played against Aiden Skaven.
Ricky Skaven. I
Ricky
just happened to be
Skaven,
piloting
General
them.
Aiden.
Yeah.
In Rare, I've got 2 Tree Men, Strangle Roots on each, although after playing the game, I'd probably take the Strangle Roots out. They didn't do too much.
So
Save
we're
up
up to
some
4
points there.
treemen now?
No,
3.
we're just 3.
Oh, all
We're
right,
at 3
3.
because we've just got the Ancient and the 2 regulars, and then 2 Eagles for my redirect. So the strategy is hopefully roll with Dryka for 2 ambushing trees, Hopefully, also there's a wood somewhere on my opponent's side of the table, and I can pop 2 tree men out there, hopefully in the first turn. So there's a lot of hopefully coming into it. In the meantime, the Ancient just stays back with my main battle line, because that's my general, and I want his leadership. Ping a few things with the Glade Guard, and then try and just set up some multi-charges with tree men potentially coming from the back, acting as kind of anvils, but from behind, and then the Wild Riders coming into the front or flanks in some combo charges. I actually managed to combo charge with all 3 tree men at once against the Skaven as well, and that was fun.
Yep.
Even though the tree men have lost some damage output, 3 together.
Oh, and against the infantry, they will face.
With the thumb
sure.
stomps. I think 2 turns I churned through that block of 50 slaves.
Yep, 2 turns.
Yeah.
So I think the even if you don't get that D3, even if you only roll 1, or maybe you don't have that forest.
If there's not a forest
backfield,
there, then I just have 3 tree men.
This is one of
which
those
is still a
lists
good list.
that the Acorn would be good for.
Yeah, it would.
This would be a really... Because
But I
once you
don't-
throw Drycha in there, then saturating the table with forests all over the place, they don't need to be in a specific place, but you just want to have at least one close to each side of the
It
table.
would be awesome, but I have no Lord level character who can take decisions. Also, Drycha works well in a tree man heavy list, not just because of the ambush thing, but because she is a shadow wizard.
Yeah.
And miasma's always nice when you've got tree whacking going on. So
drop that initiative. Yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
So it's just a nice way to... I knew that in this list I wanted to have some shadow in there, so Drycha just seemed like a nice way to work that in.
Well, and the very nice thing about it is you throw a 1 dice miasma with her, because it goes off in a 3+, and you're like, okay, I'll 1 dice miasma your demon prince, or you're something that's you don't want to have taking D6 wounds that's in combat with a tree man, and they're gonna have to throw 2 dice at it, to make sure that it doesn't go off.
And rolling her 2 spells on the Law of Shadow, I'm likely to get one thing that's going to be useful anyway, and then just trade the other for miasma. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just a nice way to work a shadow wizard in there.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, and I played this list against the kind of Horde Skaven army. It lost, but I was pretty happy with how it worked out.
Yeah,
it
but
was
it only lost by a few points.
It lost by a few hundred points, but it was so much fun just having trees appearing all over the place.
The trees were pretty scary.
Like crazy combo charges with everything.
Yeah.
And I have to say, even, this is not a shooting heavy Wood Elf list, just 2 units of 12 Glade Guard with True Flight, but I still felt like I had a lot of shooting.
Yeah.
Just because they're hitting everything all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
So it felt great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so to bring this up to a slightly larger list for a tournament, 3,000 point, I would just add Dirthu in there for an extra 385 points, and then 100 extra points in core somewhere.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
Then I got the 4-tree list. Can't wait.
Monster Mash.
Yeah.
Chomp, chomp, chomp. Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Cool. Okay, so for my list, I'm actually just going to talk us through the list that I brought to Wet Coast, which is kind of the MSU list, and it's MSU good stuff, I guess, is the easiest way to think about it. So I got a Spellweaver level 4 Dispel Scroll Talisman of Preservation on an Elven Steed. She is bunkered in a unit of 8 Sisters of the Thorn with full command, Leashbone Pennant. I run those 3 wide and 3 deep. So she hides behind the full command. It can be right in the center of the unit, unless I need her to cast Penumbral Pendulum, at which point I move her to the front of the unit so that she's not, hitting one of her own dudes.
It's only initiative, though, right?
It's only initiative, yeah, and on a 6, and then you've got a 4 aboard, so sometimes I don't even bother. But anyway. Glade Captain as my BSB. I really like this build out for Glade Captain. Anyone who's listening can feel free to reuse it. It is the Hail of Doom Arrow with a Charmed Shield and an Opal Amulet. And in this case, I've given him True Flight to go in a True Flight Glade Guard unit, and a Great Weapon, like I was talking about earlier, to be that extra protection.
What does the Opal Amulet do?
It's a 4 aboard against your first wound, and it's only 15 points.
So the Charm Shield takes off the first hit,
and the opal amulet then takes off the first wound after that. And so it's actually pretty hard to get a wound off on him because he's way back in a unit of True Flight, and he's got a couple of layers of protection without having a hard, 4-up ward or 2 or 5-up ward or whatever, which just costs more points.
Right.
So for all under 50 points, you can get that build out. Okay, so that's my only 2 characters. Then core is made up entirely of Glade Guard, 4 units of 10. 3 are running True Flight, 1's running Starfire. Again, the Starfire is just to ping off the regen on those annoying units. Everything great is in special. I got 3 units of 6 Wild Riders with shields. The thing with Wild Riders is people know they're really good. And so everybody is starting to focus on them. And so it's a kind of a target saturation thing. I dispel stuff as much as I can against them. And even if I only have 4 left, by the time they get into combat, that's still 20 attacks. It's going to wreck face.
How many points is 6?
Only 168, so not a whole lot.
So nice. So nice.
Yeah.
So good.
Yep.
When you get buying like the main combat punch of your army for like 500 points for those 3 units, that's just awesome.
Oh, look at that. I had one with a Standard Bearer and a Gleaming Pennant, and I totally forgot, never used it the whole game. The whole tournament. Then I've got the 8 Sisters that I mentioned earlier, and 3 Warhawk Riders. And I absolutely will not build an army list without 3 Warhawks anymore. They are far and away the most flexible unit in the game, in the army, because they can do a little bit of everything, and they can perform a whole bunch of different roles.
Did you give them any special arrows or no?
They can't take them.
They can't? Okay.
No. 3 Warhawk Riders, just naked, 135 points. Won't build a list without them. Then I took 2 units of 9 Way Watchers and 2 Great Eagles. And so people know that Way Watchers are awesome too. So now they've got 5 targets of things that they have to put magic missiles into and shooting into. And then
people are normally like, I better magic missile those Way Watchers, and then by second turn they're like, oh crap, there's a bunch of Wild Riders up in my face.
or vice versa. I gotta hit those Wild Riders. Oh, I'm getting shot to death by Way Watchers. So that's the list. That's 2,500 points. I played it a bunch, and I'm going to change things up a bit. This is very MSU, right? There's 13 units in there or something ridiculous. So you're pretty much always going second, so you can safely take your Vanguard with your Wild Riders and know that you're going to be able to charge the first time you're able to move, just because you don't get the very first turn. The tricky part is it's so much shooting, right? It's actually kind of boring. There's 40 shots from the Glade Guard, and then there's 18 shots from the Way Watchers, or 36 shots if you're doing the multi-shot. You even have shots from the Sisters of the Thorn and the Warhawk Riders if you get desperate. I actually found that the constantly moving and running away and moving around and whittling down and then finally attacking, while I enjoy that style of Warhammer to a certain extent, it takes a long time. And in a 2.5 hour, especially against someone who maybe doesn't know all the rules of the Wood Elves or doesn't know all the rules of the game, in a 2.5 hour time slot, there were a couple of games where we didn't get past turn 4.
Right, and it sounded like some of those games were ones in which the last couple of turns would have made the difference between you
for sure,
and losing.
Because you're whittling and whittling,
right.
And then
that's your battle plan.
You go in for the coup de grace. And so I'm definitely going to be looking at evaluating some other options when I come to my all-comers. But let's talk a little bit about lore choice. It's interesting we both chose Shadow. I mean, it is the obvious choice. I kind of find it doesn't match with how I want to play Warhammer. It's very much a debuff kind of lore, and then occasionally you're going to want to throw that Mind Razor in for all the crazy strength. But definitely very effective, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Withering is the standout spell when you've got all of that strength 3 shooting.
Yeah. The tricky part is that everybody knows that Withering is the standout spell, so they just keep all their dice for the Withering. And if you get a crappy magic phase, all you've got is strength 3 shooting. Which happened to me. I couldn't shoot down a demon prince because double ones.
I really liked dark magic with your army. That first game we played. Well, the first 2 games. It seemed like really aggressive.
Yeah, in your face.
Complementary kind of.
Yeah.
To the fast moved play style.
I like that too. I like the one dicing of the power of darkness. Gives the sisters a strength boost. I could see taking a dark wizard in a unit of wild riders even, and those guys being strength 6 on the charge with the armor piercing would be even nastier. I definitely think there's better, more aggressive lores to take than the lore of Shadow. It very much, from a theme perspective, it very much, works as you're kind of in the shadows and you're staying back. So I definitely want to explore more of the lores and figure out what we can do. One, Lore of Beasts was one that we used to be able to. You took Lore of Life in yours. I think that's still a solid.
Yeah, especially with a lot of tree men, that's always going to be a solid choice.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to go through really quickly another list that I will never build.
Okay, and then I have another one too that I would probably going to proxy just to try.
Ricky's one is hilarious, and I want to play against it.
I might try and proxy this. It's fantastic. So this is the Sethala list, where Sethala was the Pine Crags kindred, so all of the Eagle Riders and Warhawk Riders and everything.
Awesome.
So everything flies. I got a Glade Lord on a Great Eagle, Giant Blade, Helm of the Hunt, Dragonbane Gem, Shield. I got a Spell Weaver with the Talisman of Preservation and a Power Stone, level 4 Wizard on Lore of Beasts on a Great Eagle. Naestran Arrowhand on a Great Eagle.
Oh, cool.
Glade Captain with a Dragon Helm and the Ogre Blade and the Battle Standard on a Great Eagle. I got 30 Wild Riders in Core. Glade Riders in Core. Sorry, not Wild Riders.
I was like, what?
Glade Riders.
Rewrite the list.
Like, we missed something.
It's late and my eyes were confusing me.
Yeah.
Glade Riders in Core, because that's the only thing that I can put in Core that seems to feel themey.
Yeah, it's as close as you can come, yeah.
Yeah. Sure. And then I'm still tooling around exactly with this build out. I think I will probably take like 2 units of 8 Warhawk Riders, something along those lines. And the reason for those guys is to provide the Lookout Sir for all the characters. Because when you can get that 4-up Lookout Sir on a Cannonball or anything like that, everything becomes much more survivable. 4-up Lookout Sir on a spell against a Spellweaver, they get that 4-up Lookout and then a 4-up Ward. And my guys are going to stay alive a bit longer. And then a couple of Great Eagles. And so everything flies. The Lore of Beasts is in there because, you really want to get that savage. Well, she can't cast that one because she's mounted, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's too bad.
But
no Chimera riding an eagle.
Yeah. But to get off that savage beast, the Wissons even, is going to wreck face. So that's a very fun flying list, ambushing core, and you move very, very quickly, and you just want to try and get into combat as pretty much as quickly as you can and cast some buffs.
Fun.
So that one kind of dovetails into the all ambushing army, where you can do all your core can be the Glade Riders who ambush. You can do the Scouts and Way Watchers for your special, and you can do a Way Stalker or a couple Way Stalkers if you like,
or a half dozen Way Stalkers.
Yeah, if you in your hero slot, and those are all Scouts. So you walk up to the table, you put down your woods, and you say, "I am done deploying. Enjoy." And then you have to wait for your.
Then you wait and see exactly how the army is laid out.
Yep, and then you get to put everything out, and all your Glade Riders get to come on from table edges. All your Scouts get to be put down. You can put them back in your deployment zone if you want to, ultimately, or you could put them all over the table, hide them all over the place. it's going to really, really mess with some people. It might not work, but
it's a fun gimmick. Yeah, it is.
And you want to play it at least once.
I do.
Yep.
The interesting thing is with your scouts, you can give them banners.
Yeah.
So you could take that leadership banner if you want to on one of your units and put your
there's no
your
upward
waystalker
cap
in there
on them either, right?
What do you mean?
They're 5+. There's not 5 to 10.
You can take as many scouts as you want.
So you could have enormous units of scouts, 30 scouts with a banner, so all of a sudden you can claim objectives, things like that. If
that's funny.
Yeah. So, if people want to play that one, it's a fun list. I totally suggest you proxy it with your buddies and just have fun with it, because it'll be.
Yeah.
It's an interesting tactical challenge to start the game with nobody to
exactly.
It's going to feel very much like Dawn Attack, where you have to deploy your whole army and hope that you did it right. Then I have one more list here, and I came to this list based on when I was writing my other list. I kept thinking, how do I get a few more shots in there? And the way you do it is by not taking anything but shooting. So once again,
this is the all shooting list.
This is 100% shooting.
The 40k list.
It's 145 shots base. If you start counting the multi-shot things, it can get up to 170-ish, I think. So you have to have a general. So I have one Glade Captain with the Bow of Loren and the Hail of Doom. He's the other thing that's kind of important about this list is it's true MSU. No unit is more than 200 points. Mm-hmm. The Glade Captain is actually the cheapest thing in the whole list. He's only 131 points, even with his magic items. So the whole thing is keep it cheap, keep it spread out across the board, and just shoot everything dead.
Have no one thing being an obvious target.
So people aren't going to really, if they do get to me, they're going to win. That's true, but
that's a lot of shooting they have to weather.
That's
to get
a lot
there.
of shooting, and it's all split up into small units, so I don't have to waste shots. Usually if you have a big 50-man block of something, you're going to have a lot of overkill and waste a lot of shots. These are all 10-man groups, so I have 5 blocks that are Hagbane. So that's 50 poison shots split up into 5 10-man groups. They all have musicians. Then I have 4 blocks with True Flight and musicians. So that's 40 shots without any penalties. I have 3 units of scouts. One of them is 11 models, only because I had the extra points for that, and so I just threw it into that 1 unit of scouts. So I have 1 unit of 11, 2 of 10. Those all have the Starfire.
Okay.
Probably don't need the Starfire, but I gave it to them anyways because I just want to burn, baby, burn. Then in the rare, I have 2 units of 10 Waywatchers, and those are the most expensive units. Those come out to exactly 200 points, but even so,
whoa!
So you're looking at devastating shooting phase, absolutely pathetic combat phase. You're still, the skirmishers are going to be fairly mobile, but you're still not very mobile. You're still an all-infantry army. Absolutely no magic.
Yeah.
You're just going to eat whatever magic they throw at you, and you're not going to care.
Oh my god.
With any luck, by the end of turn 2, you have shot off any unit that was a bunker for the wizards.
Yeah.
And the wizards are dead. So that's what your hope is.
Wow.
So Tom has agreed to play this, so we're going to do this. We're gonna.
If we can proxy that many.
Yeah.
Even.
Is that why you were asking me how many Glade Guard I had?
No, I was asking that because I was thinking about taking a whole bunch to the tournament. Yeah.
Well, 20.
So I think the way that I'm likely to change my list, I think it has more than enough shooting, and it actually needs to be tweaked a little bit. I actually think the right build out is probably a unit of maybe 15 Glade Guard or thereabouts with True Flight, and a unit of similar size with the Hagbane. so that I can have one for taking out chaff, delete a chaff thing per turn or close on, one for taking out monsters.
And war machines.
Although the Warhawk Riders are very effective at that too. And then probably a block of Eternal Guard of around about that 21 sort of size. And that's the core. And I think everything else is reasonable. I think I probably will change up the lore a bit. Dark, I think, is a good choice. I think high is actually a very good choice.
Yeah.
But it's not an aggressive choice. It's a flexible choice, right? It's a toolbox.
Plus,
choice.
with your kind of build where you keep the wizard in that very mobile, well-protected kind of sister boss.
Yeah.
I don't know if the wound tokens thing will end up being that important.
If I took high, I would put her in a unit of Wild Riders.
Probably. Oh yeah,
yeah, probably.
Interesting.
I'm not sure. I need to experiment a little bit more with it. I think that Lore of Metal is probably a really good level 4 lore for the army. I think it gives you another tool for dealing with armor. Mm-hmm. It's got a reasonably good set of buffs. It's got a great number 6 spell for taking out big hordes. I like it as a lore. I mean, you've used it a whole bunch against me.
I use it all the time with my Chaos Dwarfs, and I like it. I find it works really well with things that already have a moderately good armor save, and you kind of push them to 1-up territory.
Right.
With it.
And so
for Wild Riders,
that's excellent. I mean, 2-up armor save on my Wild Riders.
Yeah, if you can multi-charge some Wild Riders and then do the bubble version.
Yeah, for sure.
Nasty.
I think there's definite legs in trying a light council. There's legs in having Lore of Heavens is a fantastic lore. And multiple low level Heavens casters is no bad thing, and Ice Shard spam is great. I think some of the things I want to try, I would like to try taking multiple units of Sisters of the Thorn, because they're great as fast cav units just by themselves. Yeah, fantastic.
Use them more in that pure fast cav role rather than the bunker role.
Yeah, exactly. And then now you've got channelers who are also really indestructible fast cav. And overall, I think there's a lot of possibilities. But here's we'll go into talking about the balance in the book. Forest spirits just don't feel like they are super viable, right? As an anvil, Eternal Guard are a reasonable anvil. A Tree Man, I think, is a pretty good anvil.
I still do like Tree Man. Of all the forest spirits, I like Tree Man the most.
Yeah, and I think the Tree Man is probably the best anvil in the book.
They only fall down on having to compete with Way Watchers for points.
That's a big issue for them. I mean, the Treekin, I think, also are a reasonable anvil. But none of them are, there's no hammer, right?
Right.
All the hammer comes from Wild Riders, which means that every Wood Elf army you're going to see realistically is going to include a bunch of Wild Riders. The Sisters of the Thorn are such a no-brainer bunker for a wizard that most Wood Elf armies you're going to see are going to have Sisters of the Thorn bunker. And so now we've got, your Wood Elf armies have gone from being, a mixed... Like my Wood Elf armies before were a mix of tree spirits. Tree spirits. They were infantry and they were cavalry.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be pretty much as much cavalry as you can fit in, plus whatever infantry you have to take in your core, or you're even going to have cavalry in your core. And you're just going to move around and avoid combat, and that is kind of the optimum.
Exactly, which is the worry that lists are going to become too convergent upon this,
and that's very much what's happening already. And so what you see is in the comp packs that the units that encourage that kind of build, and I know we don't like comp here, but the units that encourage that kind of build get hit really hard.
Exactly.
Which means if you actually want to build an army that uses those lists in not that fashion, is very difficult.
Right. That's what I was saying, like, Wood Elves is a very easy book to comp because it has, like, the standout choices, and people who look at it are going to be like, oh yeah, comp that unit, that unit, that unit. And then Wood Elves are going to become way less competitive in a comped environment than something like the other two elf races that have good options all across the board.
Yeah.
And are harder to comp.
Well, I mean, if you look at it really, the only sort of 1+ units in the game are the ones riding the stags.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything else, I mean, arguably Great Eagles and Way Watchers, but I mean, your rare points, you're really competing there, and it depends on your build. I think Way Watchers are probably 1+ as well. So those 3 units are going to get comped hard.
Yeah.
And we already saw that in the OFCC. You know, we see it in Swedish, we see it in the ETC, you know, and that's it. And after that, it's like, I've got a bland army book.
Right.
You know, I don't have any cool customizations I can do. Most of my magic items are kind of dull, and I've got all the same lores except for, you know, maybe a little bit from the other elves. I'm like, I've got the coolest looking elves, but the dullest book. And that's why I got really disappointed with the book. I mean, I love a lot of the individual units.
Mm-hmm. Have you been feeling less good about it?
I've been feeling less good about it because
to start with, you were pretty excited.
I mean,
but it was exciting to start with because so much was new. And
there's a ton that's new. I mean, I've still got a lot of mileage to play through it.
Yeah, sure.
But I think part of what it is, you know, I started looking at it more and more and going, there's none of these characters that excite me. You know, there's none of this that really gets my creative juices flowing in the same way. And that I think more than anything else is what lets the book down. You can say whatever you like about the rules and about the units and the balance and everything else, but the lack of excitement that comes with it is, I think, what has really let it down for me.
Which maybe means to start getting excitement out of it again, you have to step away from kind of min-max and competitive play and just pick a theme that really interests you within the fluff of the book and just build an army towards that.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, I think the thing that kills people's passion for an army faster than anything else is competitive play. Mm-hmm. You need to step away from that. If you feel like, you know, the Wood Elves are your true passion and your favorite army, don't stop playing competitively. Build a couple themed armies.
But I think bad internal balance can also just kind of kill that because I mean, it makes the highly themed list just, you want it to at least be able to be competitive to play with a bit.
But you can also do themed lists in fun play that are perfectly competitive. You know,
I'm not sure
amongst friends. But
it's the competitive side of it that is really getting to me. I think it's more that it's the lack of uniqueness, right? Okay. You know, the Wild Riders are absolutely, you know, unique and interesting, and I like that. But none of the characters are, right? You know, some of the special characters are, but they're also, you know, so high in points that you're putting yourself at a disadvantage when you start playing them. I'm going to use them anyway. I've got the Draika model, you know, I've got the sisters and so forth. But I guess what I would have liked to have seen is, you know, some sorts of builds that then allowed. You look at High Elves, you look at Dark Elves. I mean, I was hoping for the same flexibility in lists that those armies seem to have. Yeah. You know, if you look at 5 High Elf armies that all compete reasonably well in the tournament scene, all 5 of them will be different. Yeah. There'll be some core items, but, you know, the unit that they pick to put the banner of the World Dragon on, you know, they're always going to take it, but which unit they put it on, that's going to vary. Yeah. Right? What type of wizards they're taking, that's going to vary a lot, right? You know?
Those 2 books, you can definitely get a much broader range within competitive play. Yeah.
So I'm overall I'm very happy with the book, bringing it up to sort of a more competitive standard. Certainly, you see a lot more Wood Elves out in the tournament scene right now. Lots of excitement about the army again. You know, it had kind of gone into the doldrums. Tons of people on the forums.
Amazing new models.
Cool models.
Lots of cool models. Yeah. I love it. But you know, it's it's kind of killed my creativity a little bit, and so I'm taking a step away, and I'll come back to it in a few weeks or months and reinvent it.
Well, I'll say, like, when I got the dwarf book, that book inspired me to play dwarves again, which I always felt were just kind of blah, and I just kind of bored with them. The book itself inspired me to play it. This book didn't really do that for me.
Yeah.
Like, I agree. The thing it did inspire was the all-shooting list.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, all of a sudden, that thing that I imagined when I first envisioned a fantasy shooting army where you're turning the sky black with arrows and, we'll fight in the shade. Yeah. Okay, pointy shade. So that becomes plausible with what they did in this list, but like you said, everything else kind of falls short.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny because it's a complete flip-flop in my eyes from what the last edition was. The last edition, if you wanted to be competitive, you almost relied entirely on forest spirits.
Yep. Glade Guard and forest spirits.
And my whole Wood Elf army was winter themed. They were all asleep. I had absolutely no forest spirits. It was a challenge to play. Under 8th edition, it was garbage. I couldn't even use it.
Yeah.
I'm sure some better players could, but I couldn't. I just wasn't that skilled. Under 6th and 7th edition, I did okay with it. But in this edition, it's a complete flip-flop. The elves become the shining star. The forest spirits have fallen flat again. Sure, you'll still take treemen. I think that they're still pretty strong in treekin. I think you would, but the dryads, which are still super amazing models, yeah, they're probably not going to see the field very much. Now, there's the masochist in me that's tempted to be like, well, now I'm going to have to take the challenge and do an all forest spirit army.
You're not going to have a good time.
And then, yeah, you're right.
You're going to get to like moving around those blocks of dryads and be like, fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not worth it. So, especially since the only way you can get Shadow would be to take Draika with that list.
Yeah.
I think if you could take Shadow or Dark on one of the tree spirits, it would be better. But so yeah, I think people who want to do the all forest spirit theme list, do it, play with it if you want to. Don't expect to be highly competitive with it, but dryads aren't that bad. They do have their strengths, and you can fill the list with treekin and treemen still, and you'll do okay. But you're not going to do as well as you used to. Yep,
for sure. Okay, last thing before we wrap up. We have a few direct questions from folks on Twitter. I just want to quickly answer them. Everybody's kind of staring at me because it's approaching 1 a.m. So
we'll try.
Yeah. So, what non-forest themes could work for wood elves and not be absurd? Is charred dead forest plausible? What else? So this is kind of like a
definitely charred dead forest.
I think any theme is possible because the way they wrote the fluff about each realm in the forest being different, including the glades that are just wide open expanses. Or, like you said, the hawks up in the mountains.
Yep.
Like, anything's possible. Plus, they put the fluff in there where the roots of the world roots or whatever travel to every corner of the world. You could do anything you want.
I kind of like the idea of them popping up in, like charred forest, burning forest, like nasty, chaotic, like mutated forest, because it's like they felt a disturbance in the world route. Someone's like, oh shit, we got to go there and see what's going down,
Yeah,
exactly.
So then they pop up.
And yeah, a burned forest, that would look really cool.
Yeah.
Like if you that would rouse the spirits in the hills
for sure.
They'd be like, oh, you're burning us.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of the world routes, I mean, you could probably even do an underground kind of themed one that was all roots and you're traveling along there or whatever. That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
But don't do the charred theme forest just so you can primer them black and be done.
Yeah.
Put some effort into it.
Yeah. What would be your favorite Storm of Magic or Monstrous Arcana monsters to include with a Wood Elf army for fluff and or tactical prowess.
I've already given my opinion on this, and I'm sticking by it. Kadai Destroyer. Giant flame monster in the forest.
I would probably do a big unit of the stags, because I think in Storm and Magic you can take units of the stags.
That's right.
And I think a unit of stags, and then you can put a stag character in there.
Oh, yeah. Can you do that? Can you join a character into the unit that you bind?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
I think you can add your characters to those units. Yeah,
Cool.
because they become effectively your unit.
Okay.
So I think that'd
be pretty cool.
I don't
could be
remember
wrong.
actually, but
Could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I think
Even if you didn't, charging those guys around with all the impact
it'd
hits
just be
and stuff.
fun. They're
would be
super
fun.
expensive. I think they're 65 points each. But
But you get all your supporting attacks from the back rank.
they're basically monstrous cav. They just don't need riders
Don't
because they're
need
so
riders.
good on their own.
They're better because you get their supporting attacks when they're not cavalry. So
Yeah, I think that would be my fluffy choice.
don't you? Do you? I don't remember. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would probably take the what is it called? The Greater Venom Dragon. I like that one in the Monstrous Arcanum, and you can make it. Of course, you can make it a Lore of Life spellcaster if you want to. But I like the idea of it because it's just it solves a ton of. It's still themey. It solves a ton of problems that the Wood Elves have in the same regard as the Kadai Destroyer does. Except
Kadai Destroyer is just the perfect infantry blender that the Wood Elf army could do with.
Yeah, exactly. And the Venom Dragon can blend them pretty well as well. Not quite as well as the Kadai because that's stupid. Everybody takes it.
How about one of those?
You can't just buy a mountain chimera.
You have to turn into one?
Yeah, you have to turn into a mountain chimera.
Yeah. Okay, we got 2 to 3 more. Do you think there's any use for the Dryads in competitive play?
No. I mean,
Can't see it.
I would love to say yes and come up with some awesome plan right now.
Well, I'll tell you how I'm going to use mine. I'm going to try them out in a competitive environment. I'm going to take a block of 16 and I'm going to put 2 mounted characters in the unit and to be able to kind of dart out and do other stuff with. I haven't exactly figured out the build yet. Why 16? I have 16 built. And then when I put 2 mounted characters in, I'll have a block that's 5 wide and 4 deep. I don't know how I'm going to use it or how well it's going to work, but that's what I'm going to try. I'm probably going to try high magic and walk between worlds with it. I'm not sure.
Here's my way to use Dryads competitively. Take them, model them with great weapons, proxy them as Wildwood Rangers, and say they just took their axes off the Rangers, spanked them with them, chased them out the Wildwood.
I still maintain that a horde of Dryads standing in a venom thicket.
Well,
Drika casting Laura Shadow. But it's
just the maneuverability.
Yeah.
Does it give them a musician option? I'll come back and rethink about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think they're good.
And I think
Stubborn.
most of the rest we. True Flight or Hagbane or a mix. I think I said a mix is probably the right way to go. Really, it comes down to they have 2 very different purposes. True Flight is, number 1 primary purpose is chaff deletion. Hagbane primary purpose is monsters.
War machines.
And war machines.
I generally see chaff as war machines are an issue. I generally see chaff as more of a problem than
for this army book. I think that's true.
Yeah, you need to control the movement phase with this army. So getting rid of chaff.
A Wild Rider charge is a decent solution to a monster.
Most monsters, yeah, for sure. I found rare points. I found rare points to be very tight. Are eagles really that important to the list with all its other chaff options?
No, you could
go with yes, because I don't really see that many other great chaff options in there.
Well,
they're super good, but
yeah,
you can take range or scouts.
Scouts are 65. Units of 5 war dancers are 75.
Yeah, but they're not things that
They can't fly.
They're not
Yeah.
things that I think I'm going to be able to use for like really nice redirection purposes.
Yeah, and they can't hide behind your big block and then pop out in front of it when you need them to. So.
Yep. So the real trick is to play in tournaments that allow you to take scrolls of binding and then just bind a couple of eagles in special.
Actually, yeah, there we go. Favorite scroll of binding.
There you go.
Eagles.
Yeah, more eagles.
Just a whole bunch of you can only take 2 of each one. But definitely 2 single saber tusks, 2 single cold ones, which you can take just as single models with scrolls of binding.
Yeah.
Just a whole bunch of redirectors.
Just a million of them. And then take Laura Beasts.
Yeah.
It's very themed, actually. Yeah. Fill your special with a bunch of little units of beasts, all different things, and Laura Beast them forward. I love it.
Somebody do that, please. Send us pictures.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions. All the other ones we answered during the course of the conversation over the night. So on that shiny, happy note, I'm going to wrap this sucker up and call it done. Woo-hoo. And we will talk to you all again in 2 weeks' time.